Welcome. We're finally here.
Morning.
Natural Law.
We
Welcome
can just
to
leave
Wake
our
Atlanta.
entry. Can we just stay with this?
Yes. So, guys, we have so much to talk about today. Red Pill Expo. What a weekend. We're going to be also getting into natural law. What is natural law, and how does it affect our morals today?
Guys, we have Mikki freaking Willis on our show.
As well as the one and only Sasha Stone will be here live, zooming in from Bali. And, guys, stay tuned. So much to share, so much to talk about. Don't go anywhere. We'll be right back.
You are listening to Awaken Atlanta on the UI Media Network, a conscious way to start your day. Get ready to welcome the awesome duo, the uncensored and bubbly Shannon McVey, and the conscious voice of the South, Tim Ray, as they add a conscious twist to any and everything around you. So fasten your seatbelts, get ready for a ride around the Big Peach while we awaken Atlanta.
Welcome to welcome. Awaken Atlanta.
It's a Monday morning.
Wow, what a weekend, huh?
What a weekend. Guys, good morning. I'm Shannon McVey.
And Tim Ray. And so we had the Red Pill Expo this weekend, and we just had the best time of our lives.
I don't even think we can begin to explain the brilliance that was in and around that place and the energy.
Oh, yeah. Guys, listen, there's like freedom fighters and there's freedom lovers. They're all there gathered together in Jekyll Island, where the nightmare began with the Federal Reserve. And here, I think we shifted the whole energy there. I don't think Jekyll Island's has that negative energy left.
All right. Fun fact about Jekyll Island.
Yeah.
You guys, this is real. We roll in as an Awaken or UI Media team, right? We get into our Airbnb. We're getting checked out. The team is setting up. I walk outside and I'm meeting the neighbors. They're like, oh, what's going on this weekend? Because I hear there's a bunch of crazy conspiracy theorists in town. And I'm just thinking, oh, those are my people. Isn't that crazy? So they didn't even know what to expect.
Yeah,
I wonder if any locals win.
There was definitely a defining moment of mask versus not mask.
There was not one mask to be seen in there.
No.
I hope nobody gets COVID after this.
God.
But if we do, we're fine. I learned so much more about it.
Sheesh, Shannon, I can't believe you even refer to that
joking.
type of. Are you?
Well, shock value,
No,
right?
I don't know. I think you saw a little bit of residue of fear left in you.
I mean, I'm not gonna lie, maybe a little bit. Guys,
power
but we got
of
to
the
meet,
mainstream media.
We got to meet Mikki Willis, Dave Martin, Del Bigtree, like big name people that are, and Tim Ray, who did freaking phenomenal during his speech. He had 2 standing ovations, 2. Hardly the people got 1. He got 2. Just throwing that out there.
Hey, listen,
people need to watch that.
Well, the message was on point, and I'll tell you what, we actually gave everybody a solution, too, what they could do to walk out to make a difference today. And I think, do you have a little clip we could play? Not right now. We'll play a little bit later. All right, good. And a little taste. I think some of the, not Shannon, but Ashley, you had some great pictures and shots from that angle down there, didn't she?
Yes, she did phenomenal. She was the photographer for the entire place. How do you feel, Ash? Are you limber?
I was really stressed.
Because you were doing so good.
So let's talk about this before we get into anything else. Tommy, tell us about your experience, because this is your first real expo you've been to, and you met a lot of different interesting people, and you've been a freedom fighter ever since you were born. You were born into this family, you know?
Yeah. I mean, I was just high energy the whole time. I really, meeting everybody, Alex Newman, J. Griffin, to Mikki Willis, to Del Bigtree. I mean, they were all there, and they were all sharing their message. It was great.
I just so glad you're exposed to that. I wish more kids were exposed. I love that Alex Newman brought all his I don't know, 15 kids
there
to
were
this
so
place.
many kids there. Like, they're raising them right.
Yeah,
and I feel like it's good to, but is that kind of indoctrination as well?
Listen, yes.
Everything is, right?
It's a good point. Everyone's being programmed. Everyone at any given time, at all times. Our subconscious mind is all programming is
That's why you
information
cannot
coming in.
give people power over you, because they will ruin you if you let them.
Yes.
You don't let people have power over you, people.
Well, everyone has power, or everyone's programming each other. You know, parents program kids program other parents, believe it or not, and through their own behaviors and modifications, unknowingly, unconsciously.
Wait,
that's the way it
kids
is.
program other parents?
Kids,
what do you mean?
Kids, well, how they're learning and how we're wanting to raise them. And as they learn information, they process and they give information out. And at that point, everyone's kind of programming, going back and forth. It's just information, data coming in and data going out. It's what we do, how we interpret it is the most important.
Data coming in and data coming out.
How you interpret that information is what's critical. Because that's where you have to learn, hopefully through your parents, that skill set to interpret information and put it in the proper category and not let it, sabotage you. Learn how to sabotage your own success, which
I
is
love
common.
that. Yes. What was that song that you just taught me? The PTA?
Yeah, Harper Valley PTA.
Yeah.
That's Shannon in a
You
past
guys
life.
need to, or now, you need to listen to that song. It's freaking hilarious, but it's so true. But that's what that just reminded me of.
Yeah.
Because you know what? Some decisions that we make, it doesn't necessarily have effect on everything, right? On your children.
Yeah, kind of.
Because if you're an adult, you're an adult.
Yeah.
There should be a time that adults can be adults.
So what was
Stacey
your,
says, good morning. Brett says,
Good morning.
Sasha is my friend. Sasha Stone's going to be live on our show.
8 o'clock,
Mikki
guys.
Willis.
8 o'clock today. We're going to have some extra time with Sasha. And what a brilliant man. And you know what? Who sets up these tribunals? He already has the setup in place for holding people, these Sabbateans, as he says. I wish I could use his accent.
Wait a second.
These
What,
cabals.
he's got what set up?
He has this tribunal already set up, this injustice tribunal where...
What does that mean?
I mean, judges and people on this, it's like a tribunal where you have people come together and they judge other people. Right, already set up. You know what you probably need to be in front of at any given time.
Nope. Only God. That's it. That's all my audience of one. And guess what? He gives me grace upon grace.
But listen, the tribunal actually set up for the banking cartel guys. When they finally are held accountable, and they will be held accountable at some point. They will be held accountable to put the right punishment there. What do you think?
All right, well, we have a video of that. What you're talking about? You want to play it?
Oh, the tribunal. Yeah, let's play it. Yeah.
Okay.
Well, we'll bring it when we talk about it. We'll talk about it.
Evelyn says hi from the UK.
Hey,
Billy says, who are we judging today? Exactly, Billy.
Yes, Billy. And also, wasn't it great?
Whatever happened to Live and Let Live?
Hey, how about all the folks that came down? Warren came down.
It was insane.
Warren Hanchy came down. You had
G. Edward Griffin,
Robert.
I got to interview in his brilliance, in his mind.
And also, what are all the fans? Like Ursula, and we had. I'm talking.
Oh, yeah, all the fans.
Yeah.
I'm so tired.
Jeez,
We're gonna
Shannon.
get it together.
Get with it.
I thought we were still
with it.
talking about the amazing.
No, you had
Ursula and Eli and
Ursula.
Chastity and
I know,
Tia.
I know, everybody.
We had so many. McPatty. So many people.
I know. Warren,
it was really
Warren
cool.
Hanchy. We had a whole bunch.
It was
as well
really, really
as,
great. But
Robert.
I can't wait to show them the videos of even just the little.
Okay. Play the little clip here. This is like really. It was just incredible because I was on fire, man, and I was in my element, sharing my element. I'll tell you that much.
Are you ready?
Yeah.
Thank you. I see you in your hometown. Thank you. Thank you. I see you in your hometown.
We'll play it over and over again.
And that was that at the end or was that the beginning?
That was at the end.
Because you had one in the middle too. He motivated people. It was really great, and I can't wait to show everybody.
Yeah, same here. Guys, share this on
Did
Facebook
you
if
learn
you haven't
anything
yet.
new?
Share this on Facebook if you haven't yet, guys, because they're not letting us like or share things.
Tag.
I know, it's terrible.
Guys, this is probably one of our biggest shows because Sasha Stone and Mikki Willis.
Yeah, I know.
These are like huge people.
Well,
so
and they're huge people. Like a lot of people say, well, I never heard of these people before because they're not in the mainstream media. You know what I mean?
Well, Mikki, they are.
Well, no, I'm just saying the new mainstream. They're new.
Right,
We're becoming more. They're not like you're not going to go on Fox News and see Sasha Stone come on there or even Mikki Willis.
Right.
They're not going to want. They don't want these guys who are truth seekers who are throwing it all on the line, who are telling you what you're not hearing on mainstream media. They don't want them being exposed. They're trying to minimize everyone. Why do you think censorship's so out of control on Facebook and YouTube and everything else? They have control over all of that, and they're minimizing it.
Censorship.
Yeah.
Censorship is very like all kinds of different forms, right?
Yes.
Stop censoring people. That goes into natural law.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah, it is. Yeah.
Do you guys know what natural law is?
Actually,
I think we should all study it.
Read what this says here.
All right, it says, nature needs nurturing to reach its maximum intended potential.
Okay, so they say nurture versus nature. It's not nurture versus nature. It's nurture and nature. We both have to have nature and nurture working symbiotically with each other to really maximize who our spiritual beingness is the point of this shirt. From Dr. Bruce Lipton.
How come Bruce Lipton didn't speak at the Red Pill Expo?
And he may not know Ed. I don't know. You know.
I want like a lot of people. You know what? Out of all the expos we've done, that's by far my favorite.
We should do our own expo because we know we know who to invite.
That's what I'm saying.
The
Why
UI
don't we do
Media
that?
Expo.
Yeah.
Or university. I don't know. We'll come up with something. I think we should do something like
United
that.
Intentions Expo, maybe?
Yeah, something like that.
That's like your business?
But maybe not even expo. I don't like expo. Expo's too professional.
All right, but we need to have a
more ground
convention.
and grassroots.
Okay, well, somebody come up with a name.
Yeah, come up with a name.
All right, want to talk about natural law?
Yeah, so I do want to know, like, so read what it is because so we all have a better understanding of it. Like, I'm thinking like the 10 Commandments.
All right, it says natural law in philosophy, a system of right or justice held to be common to all humans and derived from nature rather than the rules of society or possessive law.
Okay.
Positive law.
Okay, Shannon, you just read that. Now, what does it mean?
Okay, I'm going to keep going. Hang on. It's also the belief that certain laws of morality are inherent by human nature, reason, or religious belief, and that they are ethically binding on humanity. Natural law and natural rights follow from nature of man and the world. We have the right to defend ourselves, our property, because this kind of animals that we are, these are the kind of animals that we are. This is all what we believe. Doesn't it sound like it? Let's keep going. We're going to keep going.
Good.
It also can work the other way. Certain actions are criminal just by virtue of the acts themselves, such as murder, because murder's not natural, right?
No, it's not.
A body of unchanging moral principles regarded as basis for all human conduct.
Okay, let's talk about this for a second. Let's talk about murder, all right?
Yes.
Let's go right to it. So in the Bible, it says what in the 10 Commandments?
Thou shalt not kill.
Okay, so they're not saying thou shalt not murder. They're saying, or they think it's the same word.
I mean, what do you?
Okay, like for example, you're a soldier. You're being sent out. You got to kill people. Okay.
Sorry to laugh, but it reminds me of this old church group that I used to be a part of, and they would say, if you have a bad thought about another human being, you're murdering them in your mind, and I'd be like, what? Because I didn't want to murder all kinds of people in my mind. Of course, you're going to have bad thoughts about certain people. Talking about indoctrination. Anyway, carry on.
I can only imagine your mind. I think half the population will be dead.
That's like so silly to say that. You're murdering them in your mind.
All right. So, okay, you have murder, right? And then the Bible says, thou shalt not kill. How do you explain the hypocrisy of going to war and killing people? I mean, people didn't even do anything wrong.
That's why
didn't even do anything wrong. They didn't like do something that was against any other law. Just sometimes they're forced to show up and kill people.
But that is why they say that.
What?
There's a time for war. Do you believe there's a time for everything?
No, I mean,
I believe there's a time for war. There's right. You just said that Sasha Stone has a judge. That's a war.
It's not a war.
Yes, it is.
Sasha Stone's not saying we're going to have to kill, hang, and poke the eyes out of every one of these Abedines.
War doesn't mean kill.
Okay, Shannon, listen.
Sometimes you have to fight for your right.
Okay, I'm not saying you have the right to defend your life. And that's something that I think that's my next point.
Or what if you need to protect people? You know, you need to
their lives, right? So my next point is this. Okay, you got thou shalt not kill.
Kill or be killed.
Then you have killing people in war.
Yeah.
And then what about self-defense, where you're murdering people, you're killing people to defend your own life?
Right. There are differences. We can't just make a blanket statement on everything.
Well, let me get my point out, and then you could answer it.
Oh, you didn't get there yet?
No, because you won't let me.
Carry on, soldier.
All right. So here is you got these three different types. The end result is the same. People are dying. Okay. You got self-defense. You got offensive in wars, right? You're going on the offensive to kill people, and then you have just the natural law. If you would agree that the 10 Commandment, "Thou shalt not kill," is the natural law. Counselor.
Yeah, it's just like human rights. Like you have a right to live.
Okay, so you have these three different types of murders, killing, right? So which one can you actually pick and say, okay, this one is this one is natural and doesn't go against the natural law of killing.
Okay, what?
Self-defense, murder, and in wartime and in general, just
murder's wrong.
Okay.
Self-defense is okay, and wartime, I believe.
But the end result is actually people getting killed.
I don't want wars to happen in a sense for money. I think that's like with what's going on, you know, overseas, or like as you say, Bin Laden. You say that it's all staged, kind of as a cop out. Like I don't think that kind of stuff is okay. I don't think that kind of war is okay. I do think that sometimes it's necessary to have a war to protect greater humanity. Well, right now we're in a war. Look at COVID. We're in a war.
COVID's not a war. COVID's a false flag.
Okay, explain the difference.
Well, I'm just saying. I mean, we created We created COVID to be the murderer, right? And it was a bioweapon, or it was created in a lab, probably in North Carolina, shipped off to Wuhan because we've all been, incestually involved with all this, right? Cabal's running the show, and now, it was there to create this crisis. Now it's killing people, but it was there to create the crisis to kill people. So I guess my point being is that I don't know what the difference is between thou shalt not kill and defending your life and in the war. But I will say, certain ones, like you said, seems more natural to go along with, like defending your life.
I'll give you some examples of natural law.
All right.
So the Declaration of Independence was an assertion of natural law, the right to be free, the right not to be taxed without representation, etc. If you believe that you are entitled to these rights just by virtue of the fact that you are alive and a human, then you believe in natural law.
That's alienable. So our rights did not come from man. Our rights came from God, a higher power. So when you're alienable rights, means they're God's given rights. No one could go above those rights ever.
Yes. Yes, and we all, and doesn't this make you want to have grace for other people? That just, because we all want to place our judgments so hard on them and what we think their moral compass should be. But you know what? They are God-given rights. God, I like that.
Well, this is where we come. This is where we come full circle, Shannon.
Yes,
McVey.
let's talk about it.
And is that here's the God-given rights. And let's just take us and look at us from spiritual beings, which we are, I believe. We are spiritual beings having a human experience. So, as spiritual beings,
having a human experience, killing someone, even defending your life to kill somebody, would go against being a spiritual being, or you think it's right in line with being a spiritual being, like Archangel Michael? No, I don't think I'm sure it goes against. I'm sure there's an internal, even if it's self-defense. If you killed somebody, your life will be changed forever.
Don't you think, as an angel, I'm not saying we're angels, and you're definitely not an angel. I'm just saying that. I'm just saying. Maybe a dark angel. I'm just saying. Listen. I'm just saying that with what angelic energy, the spiritual energy, it's like hurting someone else. It hurts internally. It hurts the spirit.
Of course.
Like when these people when these kids go to war and they have to experience this horrific experiences. I can't even get into the details of it, right? Their spirit, I think, is being damaged. I think if that's even a possibility.
That's why I think so many people are being pulled so many different ways, because there's an internal conflict constantly. We should read some comments, right?
Yeah.
Stacy says we are in the kind of culture war between masks and no masks, opening the country or keeping it on lockdown. Oliver said, if you must defend yourself with lethal force, God would understand, right?
Yes.
Do you think so? Billy says, technically, your Congress has to vote on an act of war, but we threw that out the window a long time ago. Stacy said, some people consider killing of animals as murder. What do you think about that?
Some people consider killing plants as murder.
By the way,
you can measure the plant's
please go hug a tree. It's so good for your soul.
It's true. See, but plants, you could actually feel pain. They hook electrodes up to them, and there's a screaming sound when you rip a plant leaf off.
Oh, that's sad. But do you kill animals?
Well, think about
I think the Bible tells me it's okay to eat what's in the sea and what's on land. So I think it's okay.
What about when you mow your lawn? Think of the mass murder going on, genocide going on there every day.
Oh, that's what Stacy taught us, something that when the smell of grass when you mow their lawn is really grass crying or screaming.
And bloody murder.
That's really sad.
All right. Okay. Why
did I have to repeat that? We get sidetracked.
We get silly and sidetracked, but I do think that there is something to. We got to look at the animal situation. How about the inhumane ways of running chickens?
Yeah, that's what's wrong. But this is the thing. We go from one extreme to the next. It's like the pendulum swings so extreme. Where's the balance?
Yeah.
We need balance.
Okay, so that's murder, and I think there's we could have a whole lot of talk just about murder itself, and whether it's a natural law or a natural thing to occur. I don't think any killing for a spiritual being is a natural experience.
No, me neither.
I don't buy
people
it.
Do.
And that which I think the Bible got it right. And I don't think the Bible says, thou shalt not kill, and then, in murder or self-defense,
the Bible does say there's a time for everything, though.
Okay, but
There's a time for war.
But do you think that they were referring to killing?
No, I think it's like what we're doing right now. We're in war against the Sabbateans, or what you call it. We're in our own war. There's spiritual warfare happening right now.
Wars are man-made. They're all man-driven. And honestly, you talk about different like CIA and Mossad. Mossad's like, you know what Mossad's word they're saying is?
What?
War by deception. You basically create wars by deceiving people. That's what their their motto is. And same thing with the CIA. It's all about deception, deceiving, and manipulating. Tell me that's not evil just by the nature of itself.
I know. And I need you guys right now to share this on Facebook and make sure you mark it to public, because I need us to get back in the watch party for my soul. For my soul. Okay, natural law. More examples. Common access to air, running water, sea, and seashore. Of course, I agree. Duty of parents to provide support for their minor children. That is your duty. And I think that where we go wrong is you want to meet your needs before you meet your children's needs. And I'm not talking about don't have self-care. Of course, self-care is important. But your child's needs should come first over you in your selfish desires. And I think so many parents don't do that. And that's where we're falling. That's where these kids are being raised narcissists and trying to find answers and trying to find validation and getting abused because we don't know. They don't know because they didn't have that love as a little child growing up. I think it's really important that we do that. It's our duty and our responsibility. Hold yourself accountable.
Look at that. What else you got?
Sanctity of human life. What, you have nothing to say about that?
Well, I was saying, I like that. Hold yourself accountable. And most people don't know how to hold themselves accountable.
But yeah, I mean, it's not saying, I think that people just get so, well, I have the right to have self-care. Like, yeah, we're not saying that.
No, yeah.
And it's fine. It's anyway. We should do a whole show on that. Yeah. Sanctity of a human life. Yes, absolutely. Human lives are so precious. And that's what hurts me so bad about the evil in the world, on how you can kill another human being for $10. You know what I mean? There's so many sick individuals right now.
Oh, yeah.
Or how about suicide? That's something. How about if that person feels so hopeless? Why do they feel so hopeless that there's no way of coming out of that? I can't fathom that.
Yeah, I mean, the suicide skyrocketing, a lot of it has to do with the cognitive dissonance. I talked about that too, is how, like people their behavior is not matching their beliefs. And it creates that dissonance, that difference in them. And that puts people into anxiety, depression, shame, all that. And then that never gets addressed. And then it builds. And the person can't handle that dissonance, and they decide they have to check out.
Tim asked a show of hands in the audience yesterday or 2 days ago. I don't know. It's all blurred now. Of how many people lost somebody to suicide
in the last 7 months. Only because of the COVID.
Only because of COVID. And how many people raised their hands?
Yeah, I mean, probably half.
Shocking.
Probably half.
No, I wouldn't say half, but there was a lot. There was a lot of people in that audience.
I know. Yeah.
It was a lot. And we don't even understand what this is doing to our kids. This lockdown. You guys, your kids need to be back in school. They need to be with their peers.
Oh my God, the WHO, I mean, this is how screwed up and crazy they are. WHO just came out and said that lockdowns are very bad for people.
I know,
and we shouldn't do any lockdowns.
Yeah, I know. I know.
8 months later, people were already, damage is already done.
Which is what we've been saying for how long?
Yeah, from the day one. But my point being is that, come on, guys. You know how many lives you screwed with so far? They're still screwing with. They're still walking around with masks on like they're doing something. These poor people are programmed every morning now themselves, their neural pathways, to put a mask on. They don't feel comfortable with a mask on or hugging anybody. But 7 months ago they did. But now they don't because they've created new neural pathways. They got a whole new habit now that they're going to take forever to get over. How many hypochondriacs and germaphobes have we created and manifested through this process?
Listen, I work with Awaken Atlanta, and I still am a germaphobe. I was interviewing people, and I had some spit on my face, not going to lie. It freaked me out. And I'm like, why am I afraid of this?
I know.
If I get sick, I take vitamins.
We've been sick all our lives, guys. And we're all sharing getting everybody sick. Ashley, when you first started here, tell them about how you were gloved up and masked up.
Yeah.
Hell yeah, I was. What do you mean, Tommy?
It was scary. I get it. I quarantined myself, and I was healthy. I self-quarantined. How long did I do the show from my house?
Yeah, Eli. Hey, Eli. Hello.
Good morning, Eli. Oh,
isn't she a wonderful soul?
We were talking about you, girl. Eli, you guys need to go see her if you're local. What?
You're talking over your mic, as usual. She is.
Things never change. Right.
Yes.
Relations-
Eli's going to help us, guys, build this whole
Just go see
whole
Eli.
new network.
She's got the cure for COVID, guys.
Yes, yeah.
You're sick, go see her.
Frequencies.
She'll make you feel better.
She's a naturopathic doctor.
She gave me a sticker thingy, the homeopathic thing, and that's why I'm not going to get sick. Watch what happens.
Well, you and the placebo, yeah.
And the placebo, what does that
I'm
mean?
just kidding.
All right, relationship between step-parent and stepchild. Natural law. What do you think about that?
That's
I know.
interesting.
I took on 3 kids that weren't my biological kids, and I loved them.
Okay,
Loved them.
so that's natural law, they're saying? Because to me, it's a spiritual being you're taking care of.
Yeah, it's a spirit. Because there's
and you
no...
you could have a connection with them. It's not a physical experience.
And I think that's what's so important is that's what we see. Like, there's a connection. Guess what, Tim?
Yeah.
Your feelings matter to me because you're a human being, and I care about human beings.
Right.
If we're constantly judging and hurting other human beings or messing with their minds, you don't even... How many... We just talked about suicide. How many people do you think actually killed themselves because of the shame that other people's belief systems put on that person? If you're doing that, knock it off.
Well, not only that, but you have to be careful. More people in our population are more vulnerable than others, right? They may not have the skill set or the ability to interpret what people are saying. It's not the other person's causing somebody to kill themselves.
But I'm saying
it's their interpretation of what they're saying.
Them.
Of course.
And you can't do that. Like, you should have grace and love and understanding.
But this is the problem. I would say no. I would say let that continue going on. The same thing with the whole mask thing. They're trying to put masks on to avoid a virus.
So would you shame your kids to learn a lesson?
No, I would say this: they're going to be shamed throughout their lives. Most of the shame is going to be through self-shame. But point is, I would give them tools and techniques of how to interpret that shame in a much healthier perspective. This is the same thing with COVID. Learn how to increase your immune system. Don't worry about wearing a mask or social distancing. Focus on solution. The solution is, if you have a healthy immune system, then you're fine. If the solution was shaming, if you know how to interpret shame and not use it to be destructive to you and your body, then that's all you need. So show people the cognitive solution, emotional solution than ever before, you know?
Yeah.
So read Billy's.
Okay, so Billy said, since we're on the topic of morals, I've met a lot of women who have had abortions, and every one of them regretted it. Every single one.
Well, there's something to that, too.
Oliver said, I think the mask is permanent in New York. It's just required everywhere forever. Is it really?
Listen, guys, what's going on with New York? Have you seen? It's like a war zone. We got to go to a break, but we'll talk about New York when we come back. It is a war zone there. They're not taking the garbage out. They're not collecting the garbage. I mean, it is all these states like California, New York are going under. This is like escape from New York.
That's why everyone is leaving.
I know. I know.
All right, guys, if you're watching via Facebook, do me a favor, share it, make sure it's set to public, and we will be right back.
They have done so much damage to the economy. We've got 40 million people lost their jobs. We've got hundreds of thousands of small businesses that may never open up again. We are going to be going through some very hard times in the weeks and months ahead. And you can bet that the deep state is going to try to sell you tyranny as a solution to the problems that they caused. So we've got to avoid martial law. We have got to get these tyrannical policies reversed. And as we said earlier in the program, Tim, we have got to hold the little tyrants accountable, because if they're able to set the precedent this time, next year the flu comes along, or next year some new disease comes along, they'll come right back at it full force, and they'll start it all over again. And this time it might be permanent. So we have got to be clear. It's unacceptable. It's illegal. It's not going to fly. And if you're involved in violating the law and imposing tyranny, you will be held accountable. And if you look at the tyranny that King George was imposing on us, it was nothing compared to what we're facing today. So get a backbone, Americans. Start doing what you need to do. Speak out. Defy lawless, unconstitutional mandates where necessary, and educate your neighbors and your friends. These contact tracers come to your door. Make sure you have the address of your whole city commission, your whole county commission, your state representative, your state senator, your U.S. congressman. And when they say, who have you been in contact with? Here's the list. Knock yourself out. Send them over to your congressman. So, that'll teach them real quick. They'll get back in line real quick. We have got to protect our children. The only way they've been able to get away with stealing all our freedom, with growing government all out of proportion to what it should be, is by brainwashing the youth of America. And so, parents, if you have children, now's a perfect time. You've been homeschooling for a couple months now. You found out it works. It's fun. Pull your kids out of the brainwash camps and make sure they get a good education. Teach them to read, teach them to think, teach them real history, and we will be much better off going forward than if we continue to allow the government to brainwash, indoctrinate, and dumb down our kids.
It's that time again. Time to have fun, play games, and talk to your tribe. Whether you want to talk to a friend, need advice, or just want to connect, we got you. So what are you waiting for? It's time to win cool prizes. Pick up that phone and give us a call at 678-495-4345. Get ready to raise your vibe. It's tribe time.
Good morning. Welcome to Awaken Atlanta. Shannon, McVey, Tim Ray. We are talking about all things of natural law. Also, the Red Pill Expo that we got to experience.
Wow.
Total, beautiful, motivational, brilliant, insane. What else? Come on, help.
Freedom fighters of the world
Truth
unite.
seekers.
You know, and it is the true truth seekers. This is the real stuff that you're getting that you're not getting anywhere else. So you might as well just start focusing and if you guys, I just swear to God, go to one person who's lost into the matrix right now. You can tell they're they're wanting to wear masks when they go to the stores. They're in fear. Tell them just do one thing for 1 week, and you'll give them $100 or something. Is don't watch mainstream media. Just turn it off. Don't listen to the radio, mainstream media. Yep. Don't watch TV, mainstream media. Don't read the New York Times, mainstream media.
I went to the Today Show because we do our news, so I research and we vet everything out ourselves. And headlines, breaking news: elementary school teacher who is a mother to everybody died from COVID because school's open. I'm like,
you know,
what's up with Pelosi? By the way,
it's all game.
How are we not seeing the scariness of what is going on?
I know. I hear you. So guys, it's just unfortunate. It is what it is. But if you just get everybody turned off the mainstream media, they lose all their control. That's how they're programming us in a very negative way. Get programmed in a positive way. Go to the places where the truthful.
I want to be positive.
Place to be. Well, it's where the truth is. And the truth may sound scary initially. It may not seem positive, but it is positive in the end because now you can make decisions on foundation of solid ground called truth.
Well, do you know there's 4 different levels of law?
No, I do not.
So the natural law we talked about. So the rational creature's participation in the eternal law. The natural law hinges upon the desire for God and submission to Him, as well as upon the sense that that everyone were basically all equal.
Okay, but how do you know Him? How do you know God's not her?
Okay. And it's natural as it consists of reason given to us by higher reason of the divine lawgiver. That's natural law. By the way, at the Red Pill Expo, it was so beautiful. When we showed up in the morning, they were all praying. They did a great group prayer. And I love that they said, in Jesus' name we pray.
Really?
So there's a lot of Christians in there, which was really cool. All right. Then there's eternal law. And eternal law is the ideal type and order of the universe, pre-existing in the mind of God. Law which exists because of God's divine providence. As God created the universe is governed by His law and the basis of all other kinds of laws. Then there's divine law. Do you know what this is?
No, what is divine law?
Historical laws of Scripture given to us through God's self-revelation. Divine law is divided to the Old and the New law, which corresponded to the Old and the New Testaments in the Bible. And its moral prescriptions are summed up in the 10 Commandments. So that's what you were thinking of. Natural law, 10 Commandments is actually divine law.
Ah, okay.
And then there's human law. So, okay, well, we'll talk about this in a minute. Human law is the interpretation of natural law in different contexts. Natural law is a foundation for moral and civil law. Government laws are dictated or practical reasons for the precepts of natural law. Law is not about individual morality. Individual vices should be legislated against when they threaten to harm others. So you you can take a little bit of everything, right? And
yes. But I mean, but even still, I mean, it's still an interpretation by man, you know, and womankind, all these different definitions of it. So how do we know we're not getting a universal truth, which I'm not going to say what law that is. It's a universal law of all these 4 different laws you said, and then breaking it up and looking from one perspective of the prism, looking from that one angle of that prism and thinking that's just a different law, but really it's all one law.
Right.
How do we know that's not the truth?
So, Greg, good morning. Welcome. He actually was a fan from New Mexico, and he's watching, but he said, telling someone not to wear a mask is like telling someone not to cover their mouth when they cough or sneeze. Go ahead.
All right. Okay. So, Greg, where were you last year?
But he's also in New Mexico, where the governor is so warped. Okay, what do you think about it, Greg?
Where were you last year, 2 years ago, 3 years ago, and when people were getting colds and actually more people were dying of the seasonal flu? Was that like now this is, we should have done this all this time, we made a mistake, or that have you done your research and realized that masks do not stop viruses? I mean, have you looked at that?
So when you see these papers, because so in the doctor's office, for instance, there's a paper and it says, if you are wearing a mask and with COVID and you have COVID, then it's only 5% of sharing it. But if you're both wearing a mask, it's only 1%. You think that's false, right?
Of course it is.
Yeah.
Because listen, guys, they've done studies on it. Ben Swan shared the data, the 4 or 5 different studies done with masks and versus a virus for the last 3 or 4 years. Even 2020, they just did one. And guess what the results were? No significant difference. But what we do know, we do know this for a fact, and you can go watch Del Bigtree and the rest of them, and the experiments they've done, is that your CO2 count is increased and your O2 count is decreased. And it's also against OSHA regulations, although they're not enforcing it because they've been bought and sold out like every other freaking government industry organization that we have right now in the world and in the United States.
If I may.
Yeah.
I think that it comes down to this. If you're not ready to see the truth for what it is, the masks are a lot darker than just wearing masks to protect us from a virus. And if you're not seeing that kind of truth yet, then maybe it's just not their time and we need to have grace.
It's not their time. I mean, of course we have grace, but when you do wake up, whoever's out there who believes that, when you do, and we'll be here, everyone will be here for you when you wake up, but when you do, you're going to have this like revelation. You're going to be, there's going to be anger. A lot of times when you realize you're being hoodwinked and you're being played, and psychological warfare is very big, you wake up, you can initially have fear and then anger. And that's good because now you're going up that emotional guidance scale, right? So you go from fear to anger, and then you get into hope, and then you get into solutions and positivity and higher frequency. Even though all this craziness is going on, you're kind of above that, but yet you're not feeding into it anymore. And that's the progression people go to when they wake up.
Right.
I see.
Nina says masks are useless. Do some research. Oliver said the masks create bio waste everywhere too. Stacy says it says right on the side of the box that masks do not protect you against COVID. Billy says,
it's not
I got
COVID,
my
it's
popcorn
viruses. Yeah.
ready from these comments.
Well, it's silly because, Greg, you have to be listening to mainstream media, these scientists, not real doctors, but these scientists who are bought and sold. The level of corruption in our government agencies is beyond understanding. It is up to here of corruption, and it's all corrupt because of the money buyouts and this cabal.
Look at what they're doing right now in front of our faces.
Yeah.
Sorry,
Yeah, I know.
go ahead.
The cabal doesn't, on top levels, they have all the money in the world, but they want people who are motivated and only will do things by money. And those people, their morals, their natural law morals, stop how much money they could get or not get. I got to get paid, right? Mentality.
Yeah.
And those folks are going to always compromise their morals, always, at any given day. If money could buy you, I'm saying for everyone, if money could buy you to do whatever that person wants, you just corrupted your whatever moral you had on that level, and you could be bought and bought out. Now, most people think, well, it's a matter. Everyone can be bought out, but I don't think everyone can be bought out. I don't think spiritual people connected to their soul can be bought out.
I agree with that. I so agree with that. Look at us agreeing. Bam. Okay. Greg says masks are, and this is where I just want to just say something about this. Greg says masks are not magic. Yes, you can still get the virus when you wear one, but it helps. I'd rather be in the room with people wearing them.
It only helps for your it helps you psychologically to make you feel safe.
But this is the thing about the virus too, Greg, is the mainstream media has made it so much worse. There's so many lies. You can go get a test and say that you have COVID, and you just have a common cold. Yeah. But guess what? If you have COVID, you're probably going to survive it. 99.9% of people survive it. It's just like it's not going anywhere. It's going to be like a new flu every year. What don't you think that? Well, they're pushing for bigger things that we got to be more aware of. It's not just a virus.
Greg, go one step further. Investigate, and I swear to you, you'll vet this out and vet out how dangerous the masks are for a prolonged period of time. People are saying, well, doctors were in surgery. Do you realize it's regulation? They got to pump an extra 20% more oxygen into the ORs because they don't want the doctors passing out with having a mask on all day.
But then they're also doctors. They're not touching their masks all the time with dirty hands like people are getting sick every day. Especially these kids. I feel like it's abuse for the kids.
It is abuse for the kids out of ignorance ignorance of the parents, and and eventually they were just like with the vaccines. Eventually, when a parent wakes up to a vaccine, and usually it happens, unfortunately, when they have a vaccine damaged child. But when a parent wakes up to the vaccine, how dangerous to play in Russian roulette with their child, it's like, oh my God, how much guilt you put on yourself and the shame you put on yourself, and you were hoodwinked, lied to, and you shouldn't. But that's the way it is.
Because you're going along with what people are telling you to instead of critically thinking. And we're not coming down on you.
Doctors are telling you this.
We are loving that you wrote this. Thank you so much for writing this in, because we want to educate other people just to do your own research. But that's what it comes down to. People need to vet things out themselves and do their own research. Don't just take our word for it.
But vet out the actual CO2 and the oxygen intake, less intake and more CO2 intake you take it in, how it's actually harming your immune system. You're you're making yourself more prone to be sick, to get some type of virus or cold, because your immune system is being compromised because you're not bringing enough oxygen and you're bringing in too much CO2.
He said, I wear a mask about 10 hours each day, and it has not affected me in any way.
Well, it's a cumulative effect on that, number one. And psychologically, you're wearing the mask because you feel you're pretending it's an appearance of truth. It's an appearance of truth that you're actually you're not being hurt. It's a psychological game you're playing with yourself.
Corwin said it. The side of the box that I bought says it's good at preventing visible particles. COVID is measured in nanometers. That's not visible.
Yeah. It's a psyop, guys. It's a world psyop right now.
There's spiritual warfare happening right now. There's a bigger plan. It's got nothing to do with a virus or masks. It's all to keep us divided because of what they want to roll out. So just let's be aware, right?
Yeah.
Okay, natural law is often founded on the following: God who created natural law with creating the world. Logos, an idea from philosophy. This is interpreted to be divine law. Certain laws that can be deduced by the natural silence. Nature itself and reason. By the way, do you ever feel like when you just walk out into nature, like that's why it's so important to, we were on a beach. Yeah. We were all on a beach. We cleansed ourselves in salt water. We had our bare feet on the sand. How good did you feel?
Well, the science behind that is what? It's negative ions. And what happens, we right now, we're around computers or cell phones, everything all day long, and we're gathering and accumulating positive ions. And after a while, it actually throws our electrical balance in our body and around our body out of whack. And that's why when you go to the beach or you go out to nature, you're barefoot in the sand or in the grass, you're getting now negative ions. And the negative ions neutralizes the positive ions. And now you have more of a neutral baseline where we're supposed to be at any given time as a human. So yes, but there's actual science behind why you feel better when you go out to a country or you go to a beach because of the negative positive ion effect.
But talk about natural law, and I love natural law. I think that it's so important that we just keep reading it. Sorry, I forget we're having to share.
Oh my God.
Stacy said, all right, John says, rob the Federal Reserve. Guys, by the way, Red Pill Expo was held in Jekyll Island, where the Federal Reserve
was created,
was founded, right?
Yeah. By deception.
Corwin says it's called grounding.
Yeah, it's grounding.
Nina says doctors are not experts in masks.
Yeah.
I mean,
they're not. See, and guys, you know what? This is the worst thing about this. From my experience, this is the worst thing I've been experiencing. I brought this to my bank's attention, and of course, all the other organizations I've been visiting for years have fired me. My dentist, my barber, all this stuff. Right? I brought to their attention is that when this level of customer service is so bad, and they're using COVID, of course. Oh, we don't.
Is the COVID, customer not always right?
Well, that's my whole point. COVID. Oh, it's COVID-19 now is the customer, right? Everything is poorly, and now you can't go into a bank. And guess what? They're lazy now. They're not caring. They just say, don't come in because they don't want to deal with it. I go to the vets. You can't bring your dog or animal in with the vets because they don't want to deal with it. They're in there partying, having lunch, and laughing.
How about
they don't have any customers to take care of.
You can't bring an advocate or somebody to speak with you because they want you alone.
With your doctor making decisions for you, and you don't have anybody bouncing off.
So much money, honey.
And make mistakes, too. So this customer service thing is critical, and we're losing that now. And this is when the state now is corrupted the private sector, and the private sector is now being corrupted, and the customer is last, in fact, and they're not being treated correctly. And I'm telling you what, this effect is going to be horrible if we keep continuing this behavior, because now we're going to have a businesses, the private businesses, actually determining their success based on what they think is best rather than the customer. And they lost their whole model at that point. It's inevitably, it will be their downfall.
Yep. Amen, brother. I'm sorry. I'm excited because, guys, in 10 or 13 minutes, we have Mikki Willis, who created the Plandemic movie, who vetted everything out.
Plandemic 2, billions of people watched, I think. At least 1 billion people watched. And, I mean, think about that. And also, we recorded this earlier. We were going to play it before the Jekyll Island experience, but we had something come up. I can't remember. Oh, Sasha Stone. We had to reschedule. So, but it was a great interview. You're going to love everything he said. He said also at the convention, too, as well, if you haven't seen it. And by the way, if you guys want to go see the live and watch literally what we experienced on Jekyll Island, go to uimedianetwork.org, sign up on there, use our code on there. I think there's benefits to that. I'm not sure what they are. Use the code, and you'll be able to sign up for the live stream. How much is a live stream? Anybody know? Is it?
I have no idea. John Ross said getting people ready for AI customer service. That could be what they're doing. Yeah,
exactly. You know what? That's exactly what they're doing, John Ross, because AI, they're not going to be able to give you the real customer service. It's going to be just generic, right?
I just don't. Do you think that they want to wipe people out and just have their own only bloodline?
Right.
Is that what you think? Or what's the end goal here? Or do they want us to be slaves?
That's a good question. Let's talk about that for a second.
Are we supposed to be slaves?
$45, John Ross says, for the live stream. That's not bad. And you can see the whole weekend what happened.
Phenomenal.
And you have it for 30 days. You don't want to, you can watch it late tomorrow, whenever you want.
Amazing speakers. People killed it, man. It was so good.
Yep.
Go ahead.
Including myself.
All right. You want to get to email, or did you want to talk about something? You just said something.
No, I think we're good. I was just going to say about getting ready for AI. Yeah, the AI. Okay. So you asked the question, what's the end game here with AI, right? What do you think it is? And what's your gut instinct tell you?
Well, that's why they want to I feel like it's all a perfect snowball effect. I think it's all coming together. One world order. New world order, right?
Yeah, but why AI, though? Why not, just them come out?
They don't want people, because probably they can be behind the scenes so they can make AI do whatever they want. They don't have feelings like human beings, and humans are out of jobs.
Well, this is what I think, too. I think just by the nature of the numbers. Like, we have billions of people on the truth spiritual side, and then you have just a handful of people on the banking cartel cabal side, right? And they need drones, because humans, they could be mind controlled, they could be manipulated, but eventually most of them, because of their spirit, they'll wake up to what's going on, and then they turn against that, right? So here it is. So it's not a solid expectation they could hold on to, but an AI, and also dehumanizing humans by making them more artificially with chips and things like that.
There we go. That's against natural law. Perfect example. Stop dehumanizing each other. Keep going.
Well, and we are dehumanizing them in that sense, but now we can be more controlled easier by these drones out there and these AI, actual artificial intelligence, and the half human, half artificial intelligence can be controlled more than just relying on
Why do you think they wanted to blow up an economy? Because that's clearly what they wanted. That was their goal. Why? It's not just about the vaccines. Well, guys, now we're seeing that. This is not just about big pharma at this point. This is so much deeper.
It's much deeper. And they blew up. They noticed they kept all the big corporations in place, right? And only blew up the small private companies.
They got rid of the middle class.
Destruction of the middle class.
Yeah, but why? Why? Educate people.
Well, because currency.
Yeah, because
society.
And you could control the ignorant. You could control the people with no money easier than you could control people with money who are actually putting thought into what's going on. Do you know in was it Laos when they turned communist? Or Cambodia, I think it was Cambodia. I can't remember which one it was. That who was it? I can't remember the guy. Whatever his name was, Do. He killed people. He killed millions of people. Guess why?
Why?
Because they wore glasses. He would if you wore glasses, you would get killed. This is how insane he is. And his logic was, people with glasses are more likely to be smarter than people without glasses. He killed people because they wore glasses. This is where tyranny. This is where tyranny doubles down, and this is where it gets worse if you don't put it in check.
But that's why it's important to not give people that kind of power over you, right? It all comes down to that. You can't give people...
it comes down, you have to stand up and fight for your rights. That's what it comes down to. And if you don't do that either in a non-compliance way or in a direct way, you will be trampled and you will eventually be killed for wearing glasses.
Live for God and God alone. Try to be more like Him, even if you mess up, even if, whatever. Don't care what other people think, and be careful with what you're saying to other people. I think that's so huge.
Let's talk about
natural law.
Let's talk one thing real quick. We'll go to emails here. Is that one of the solutions that I shared with everyone was that we got to get involved in our local communities and start our own groups. And this is something that we're going to continue following up on, and we're going to be sharing and talking about. And we're actually going to put it on our website. The different towns in the different states here, and I think every country should be doing this right now. Find all the different towns in your state, or if that's even broken up in Providence or however you have it set up. We're going to put those on our website with America First, and then we're going to get one person who could get these gatherings, these group gatherings each week. You meet weekly for 1 hour, and you organize, and they show you show numbers of people who potentially strengthen numbers who actually are talking about freedom. And then your local government sees this, and they're less likely to be that authoritarian who's going to arrest you or tase you for not wearing a mask in the bleachers.
Because you have numbers at that point.
Yes.
John White says Cambodia in 1950 to 1960, they killed people with glasses due to the thought that they were smart, just like Hitler did with the Jews.
Yes.
Mimi says, will you guys be talking about the Benghazi bombshell CIA whistleblower? Not today.
Oh yes,
but we will.
That we will. But that was a big deal. You know, John Paul Rice posted about that, and that's a big deal going on right now. And I
love that guy. By the way, you guys need to look him up. He made a movie, Child's Voice, that's now censored.
But once again, here it is. Like Hillary Clinton was all involved in that, and Trump's releasing it. We're back into the division of Republicans and Democrats. And now, granted, they did that bad. That was a horrible thing that they did, and they need to be held accountable for it.
Right.
I'm not saying that. I'm just saying, but if we're approaching this from a Democrat versus Republican, we got to approach this from, I believe, unifying us on what we agree on. What we agree on is we all want individual rights.
Yeah. All right. Emails. And in 7 minutes, Mikki Willis, the founder of the Plandemic 1 and 2, Truth Seeker, really cool person, is coming on in 6 minutes.
Founder of Elevate.
Thank you. All right. Hey there, you guys. I really hope you read my email. So I have a sister who is much more attractive than I. I have built up this resentment towards her because of it. Guys flock around her while ignoring me. Most of the guys I've had crushes on usually go after my sister instead, and I can't stand it. I am so self-conscious, especially around her. Even people in my family call her the pretty one. I feel like crawling under a rock. How do I make myself hotter? How do I get guys to like me instead? I hate being around my sister. It sounds awful, but sometimes I wish I were an only child. It sounds like you have like the Marsha complex.
Well, you get a lot of that type of complaints and things. I
do.
And maybe not with your sister, but with your girlfriend. No, not my sister. But,
yeah, I do. So that's why it's hard.
Well, tell me how you handle it.
Okay, this is what you do. You don't let your light shine, or you don't blow out your light to make somebody else's light feel bigger. That's unfair. I tried that, and that will get you nowhere besides being a people pleaser and super depressed and going against yourself. But I feel like you gotta just get over it. Just get over it. Who cares? Still be confident with who you are. Maybe do some counseling with who you are on the inside, because there's not another like you. That's what's beautiful about this world. We need all of it. Looks don't matter. It's what's on the inside that matters, right?
Well, looks definitely help you in this three-dimensional world. But I will say this. Well, what you're saying is very important, because it's a matter of how you interpret yourself. Because, guys, in life, there's always going to be somebody better than you, somebody more prettier than you,
somebody smarter,
more handsome than you,
somebody funnier,
everything. There is. And there's going to be people who are not.
Right.
So when you start judging your effect, and I knew we have to realize where we fall in society. Yeah. We want to know where we stand, because it helps us with making decisions, right? But when you start living your life based on how you're perceived by other people, and then you internalize that, so now you're perceiving yourself by the perception of how other people perceive you, if that makes sense to you, then all of a sudden now you're in a no-win scenario.
But
you're going to lose every time.
Break that down. If she's jealous of the attention, like, I have been straight up with people, and I don't even I love attention. Let's be honest.
She's an attention.
I'm like, give me all the attention. Yeah. But
you like suck it up in a room.
I know. I'm like feeding off of it. No, I'm not, because I'm giving mine away.
People do feed off on attention.
People feed off of mine, my energy. No, but seriously, what do you do to not allow yourself to get jealous like that? To accept that, who cares that she's getting the attention? Why? Can you? I can't speak on that. Ashley,
there's definitely a. Good.
Okay, wait. What am I answering exactly?
I can't put myself in this woman's shoes as much, because if I was at a party and guys kept paying attention to somebody else, I would still have fun and go find my own people and still make conversation. Like I don't understand. I can't put myself quite
Here's some advice for
perspective.
Nicole.
All right, Nicole says, maybe look to see what she is doing as far as her hair and makeup and clothing. That's not superficial at all, Nicole.
Hey, Nicole's a pragmatist, all right? You know, she's right. You gotta, if that's what it is, find your own pretty. If you really want to stand out, then do that, you know? And it's just a matter
But you
of...
stand out by just being who you are, being authentically you.
Yeah.
Stop trying to be. I wouldn't find out what she's doing. I would get more confidence. And I would do therapy, and I would do internal work, and I would do meditation, and really just try to grow as a human. Because then, guess what? You're so beautiful. You know how beautiful you are. Even if you're the most unfortunate looking person there, you know how beautiful you are, and everybody else will see that. Do you know what I'm talking about?
Yes.
Has anyone ever said to you, oh my God, you think that person's pretty? And you're like, but I know that person's heart. Yes, you think she's beautiful.
Yeah, but guys will always go to the prettier person, though, you know.
So guys are just superficial.
Guys are more superficial. All right, you read the second email from
Ashley was going to say something.
No, I was just, do you guys think that a personality does make a person more attractive?
Yes.
Oh, definitely.
Hands
I mean, listen,
down.
okay, the looks will get you there, but the personality will keep you there.
Yes.
Trust me, looks eventually fade out, and all that eventually goes away.
It's true.
It's all about the personality.
Oh, that's why we need to listen to some Conwood Twinney.
All right, we go to the next one.
All right, we have comments real quick. We all look the same with the mask on, John said. Chandra says, hello, Mr. Tim and wonderful Shannon and all the amazing friends. Greetings from India.
Ooh,
Mimi says, it's so hard to get your mind out of that narrative. Oliver says, yes, Shannon, beauty is on the inside. Brett says, get her to wear a mask. Oh, my gosh. All right. Number 2 email. Any advice on having a first kiss? I'm 19 and have yet to kiss a guy, but I've been seeing someone and it's bound to happen soon. To be honest, I'm freaking out. Should I practice on my hand? Maybe watch some how-to. Oh, you're so cute. I mean, just
whatever you do, don't get a girlfriend and practice it on that.
She's 19 and she's never kissed a guy.
Yeah, don't get a girlfriend and practice on that because these days you don't know what that's going to lead to.
When we were all girlfriends in high school and we didn't have our first kisses. Oh, this is gross. I shouldn't tell the story, but I'm going to do it anyway. The girls all put saran wrap between their mouth and they would practice kissing on each other.
Really?
Yeah.
That's not a bad idea.
I mean,
you know.
and believe it or not, I didn't do it. So guess what happened to me? I got bullied. I got bullied out of that group because I wouldn't partake.
Really?
So that's why if you can't beat them, join them. What do you think? That's super cute. 19 and not having first kiss.
You could not lose your innocence by kissing, but just pick somebody who's going to respect you. All right.
Yes.
Don't pick someone who's just going to want to just get that tongue stuck down there.
Yeah,
you know?
I think it's super sweet, and you should tell that guy that. Hey, listen, I have not done this because I haven't found anyone special enough to kiss. And
Guys, Mikki Willis, Plandemic 1, Plandemic 2.
Mikki Willis is on our show. We need to share this right now, get the word out. And we have Sasha Stone coming on at 8 o'clock.
In a half hour,
teach us
guys.
about
Come
natural
on.
law. Be right back.
Well, the most troubling question I have this week revolves around a drug for malaria called chloroquine. That one of the top virologists in the world, a guy named Dr. Didier Raoult out of France, had already conducted studies in China as soon as this thing began and was having a 100% success rate recovering people who were suffering from COVID-19 with chloroquine. 100% success rate. Other studies all around the world are being done and are showing exactly that. But here's the point. Donald Trump, the President of the United States, gets very excited about the fact that all around the world, chloroquine is having real success. Now, yes, it's anecdotal. Fauci comes out and says, it's anecdotal. We don't have proof. We don't know that there's not some safety issue. Well, what safety issue would there be? You've been giving this like candy to millions and millions of people for the last 70 years. And now you're saying, whoa, 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 whoa. Let's be careful. It's anecdotal that it works or that it's safe. Okay, fine. Do you know that of all the drugs last week being tested for COVID-19, being funded by the National Institute of Health that Fauci works for and the government of the United States, you know the only drug the NIH is not funding, Fauci will not fund a trial on? Chloroquine.
Wow.
But immediately you better start asking yourself, is that because he really thinks there's a danger to it? Or are there financial interests behind it? It's a generic drug at $6 a pill. No one's going to make any money. Does it Does it cut into the amount of deaths? And is there a reason we would want deaths? I mean, these questions, I think, are reasonable questions when you watch a doctor, a scientist, telling us we have a life and death crisis that refuses to test the most tested product around the world and the one showing the most success. That's just where my questions begin this week.
It's the perfect hour, and the stars are aligned. These conscious superstars are here to brighten your day. Listen to their stories as they connect, motivate, and build you from the bottom up. It's inspiration time with our awakened stars.
All right, welcome back to Awaken Atlanta. I am Tim Ray, your host, with the one and only bubbly Shannon McVey.
And I am so freaking excited about our next guest, people.
Yes, he's going to be at the Red Pill Expo. Mikki Willis, he's the founder of Elevate and also production company On a Mission. And he put up
Plandemic. He's
1 and 2.
The most hated man in America by certain people, like Dr. Fauci. Good morning. Welcome, Mikki.
Thank you. Good to be here.
Yes.
Mikki, I thought for sure Shannon was going to sing the song for you.
Which one?
Mikki,
oh,
you're
yeah,
so
I'm sure
fine.
you hear that everywhere you go, right? He's a little bit laid back. All right, so tell us real quick about this Plandemic movie for those who are living under a rock and don't know what it is.
Like Shannon.
Well, it began as an interview that I conducted with a virologist named Dr. Judy Mikovits. We did a 26-minute interview to tell her side of the story, which is centered around a complete scandal that took place when she worked under the guidance of Anthony Fauci and other top medical experts that we're now trusting to lead us through or into or away from sanity and into deeper pandemics. Yeah. And it was a woman who has been really terribly smeared in the media because she defied the orders to just go along with the medical mafia's plan to be silent. And she refused to do that, and because she knew that people were being hurt, and she spoke up and spoke out, and in turn was jailed for 5 days, $10 million taken from her personal account, 2 homes taken from her, completely her life destroyed, and unable to practice what she calls her first love, which is science. And so I thought that it was only fair to have this woman's story be heard. And I'd vetted it very clearly before I put it out in the world, and met a lot of people that were even her legal team and others that were involved in the case to make sure that every detail was accurate on her story. And then we followed that up with Plandemic 2, Indoctrination, which is a complete indictment and exposure of all of the pillars of this incredible crime against humanity.
Brilliant. I mean, both were brilliant. I've seen both of them, and you're right. I've known Judy for about 6 years now. When we were out with the CDC and protesting then, and it was just devastating hearing her story of and it seems like the closer you are to these cabal folks like the Faucis and the rest of them, then the more they put you under the knife and they really tear you apart. It's a shame that she had to go through that. She's such a strong woman.
We actually had her on our show, and our show was taken off of Facebook. YouTube, everything, which you experience. How do you deal with the backlash of what's happening with you, if there is backlash?
Yeah.
Oh yeah, there's been massive backlash, and of course it was, particularly with part 2, it was something I was fully aware of what I was jumping into, and what would be the result of going against these powerful forces of media and medicine and politics, and I knew that it would also burn a lot of bridges for me as a filmmaker, which is one of the reasons when you own and control the narrative to such a degree, and you own you're involved in all the distribution platforms like Netflix, and they're all Amazon, all of them are in some way controlled by politics. I mean, right. Susan Rice, Obama's right arm, is on the board. He has an ongoing deal to produce media through Netflix, and so they own and control all these platforms people don't realize how much politics have infiltrated everything that we see here and watch.
That's too kind of a word. I say it's corruption at its finest of an agenda that's much more sinister for humanity. But I agree. I think it's the politics. I mean, they touched every media outlet out there for the most part, except the ones that are independent like ours. And
yeah, it's really a shame, and I have a lot of documentary friends that I've urged to tell the truth and to be brave, and the response a lot is, "Well, I'll never work again, or I'll never get a film distributed again, or you can't really go against CNN or MSNBC because they're all linked to these people, and you'll never work again." And my question for them is, at what point do we let all of that go and take the risk? Because if we continue to allow that to be, then we'll always be creating work that is less than what we came here to do, because we'll always be censored. We'll always have to be careful, and these forces that are now wrecking the lives of so many Americans and people across the world will continue to be in power. So it's time to stand up and to risk all of it.
Right, the time is now. But how do you encourage somebody to do that is in fear? Even us, we're a little radio program here in Awaken Atlanta, and we are so censored now. We are so shadow banned from everything, but we're still doing it. But a lot of people, they don't want to be shadow banned. They don't want to be censored. They don't want to lose money or sponsors or ads. So how do you encourage someone to stand up right now?
Well, it's tough, and I definitely have a lot of compassion for people who, they feed their family through their work, and they're afraid that if they do tell the truth, they won't have a home, they won't have food on their table. I understand that there's a big risk that comes with that, but we're at such a critical time right now that I would say then for those people who are in that position, start rearranging your lives in such a way that you're not so dependent upon these forces, so that you do have. There's so many ways to create independent finances that will allow you to conduct your work. I have reduced all of my bills and paid almost everything off so that I, don't have the amount of bills that I've always had. So I'm not in this place. I've continued to do that, to kind of prepare for this moment in my life to have, credit cards paid off, car paid off.
So you were always like,
all of that, so that
it's time to put your hustler hat on, in other words.
But you were woke. So what woke you up in the first place?
Yeah, because you weren't always like this.
Right.
Well, that's a great question. I thought I was. I thought I was, but I was the wrong kind of woke. I went on the road with Bernie Sanders in 2016, and that was my first real real big political production that I was involved in, that forced me to, for an extended period of time, to be behind the curtain of politics. And while I was there, I saw everything I didn't want to see, and I couldn't deny it anymore. Right. And the bottom line was, I saw and interviewed a lot of people who clearly had been indoctrinated to hate America, to hate themselves, and to hate each other. And the common thread was that everyone's oppressed, and anyone with money is an evil, bad person. And anyone that doesn't have a certain amount of melatonin and melanin in their skin is just by that account alone is guilty of racism and discrimination and everything. And these ideologies, as they started to come up, I just realized that they were incredibly destructive to our future and our civil liberties. And then I went on the road with Tulsi Gabbard. I had incredible experience with her. But got even deeper behind the politics. I was backstage at the debates and got to, I don't say got to know them, but got to witness everyone who was running, and the Democratic candidates who was running. And I just saw that there was a great deal of pretending going on, and it was a very dangerous game that they were pretending.
Right. Well, do you think that the Republican side is similar to that, but just on a different extreme, or do you think they're
or is the Republican side different because of Trump?
Well, I mean, I want to see what Mikki thinks.
That's a great question. Well, I was born and raised a liberal, and I would say I was far left. I was an activist.
You're following Bernie Sanders. You're out there.
Yeah,
right? Yeah,
and so had I not woken up, I'd probably be on the front line with Antifa. You know, I mean, I was heading in that direction.
Wow.
And so to understand that, so the great question about the Republican side, because there is a vast difference. A lot of the same crap happens on the Republican side. There's people that are there doing that, but I've watched it get cleaned up. I've watched the swamp get drained, and I've watched a lot of people that, you know, it surprised me, but I still interview both sides, and I won't lie and say anything other than the fact of what I'm witnessing as I work is a lot of tolerance on the right and a lot of anti-tolerance on the left. And it's shocking to me because it's the opposite of what I was raised to believe is real.
Yeah. You know, and that's exactly what we talk about all the time is you're getting totally shamed or bullied if you're thinking one thing. But you just said that you feel like they drain the swamp. You think that it's all that Trump is part of it and Biden's part of it. He thinks that it's all basically. Explain that.
Well,
so, because he's saying draining the swamp, that's some big words there.
Listen, I hear you. And I mean, the way I look at it from my perspective, and I hope I'm wrong, honestly, Mikki, but I just believe that, you know, you're looking at a controlled opposition. I think there's matrix that we're caught into, this far left, and then, of course, you have the right, whatever the case may be. But it could be that we're being played. If there is a new world order, an agenda for surveillance and oppression that has been in place for decades, I don't know how far you go with that, but the Plandemic definitely opened the eyes of people to be looking at things like that, what you discuss in your movies. But as this, you know, momentum of these players who've been around for decades, organizing, scheming, deceiving, you know, for me to believe that they're going to let all their work, all these decades and all these key positions to take over each countries around the world, to let it ride on who wins the American election in a month from now, just seems a little naive. But hey, that's just my perspective. But
But when you said draining the swamp, do you think that Trump being in office is what did that? Because he's not a politician.
I do. I'm eyewitness to that. I'm watching it happen, and so this is not an endorsement. I realize that anytime you don't toe the line and speak horribly about Trump and his family, that you're then by some default system endorsing him. So I'm not making any endorsement.
Right. Yeah, that's
I am simply stating an answer to this particular question, and that is, you know, is Trump up to other things that may shock us later? Maybe. I don't know. At this point, I don't put anything past anyone in politics to sell out and to make some bad choices. But he's not part of that cabal.
Right.
Is he part of another one? I have no idea, but he's not part of that. And that's why they're fighting so hard against him, because he is an outsider when it comes to that party.
I feel like you are just, I like how you talk so matter of fact. So can you share with us maybe what the biggest thing, the biggest takeaway, the biggest thing you learned from your research and documentaries and whatnot about not only the politicians, but the cabal, just how we're living life right now?
Welcome to the Matrix.
Yeah, seriously.
Well, the most shocking thing, and it's hard for people to hear because we've been wired, our language has been weaponized to such a degree that we're wired to hear certain words and immediately reject them no matter what, right? So there's so many things that we say out loud, and the moment we say them, then we're conspiracy theorists, right, or whatever the judgment might be. But I'm going to use a word here that may trigger some people in the audience, but at this point, we need to call it what it is. Mm-hmm. We're literally in the middle of a quiet, maybe not so quiet anymore, communist takeover. That's what our country's in the middle of right now. And until we wake up to that, we're defenseless against what's happening, because this isn't your typical revolution where they storm the streets and you know, take things over in that kind of a way. This is being, you know, infiltrated within our curriculums of our universities and our daycares and our elementary schools, and the ideologies that are being passed on is literally, and I know this for a fact, so I'm in the middle of interviewing a lot of people that escaped from communist countries, and every single one of them say exactly the same thing. They say, this is how they got us.
How scary.
This is how it starts. And this is where the people from Venezuela and North Korea and Cuba and all over the place.
Yeah.
They literally say your country needs to wake up. Yeah. I have someone on my team, one of my research members, who's a former producer for CNN, and she's from Russia. And she every single day she says, I'm scared to death because this is what my daughter and I escaped, and it's happening here in America, and we never thought it would be possible. But if we don't stop it now, we will be China in 5 years.
Well, you know, and I can't say it is definitely communism being that role in there, but I think the end game is fascism. Like it's happened history after history. You just mentioned all the countries there, but you look at Germany, they love Hitler. The Jews loved Hitler in the 1933. You know, everybody loved Hitler, right? He was coming in, he's going to bring everything in place. There was this sense of like, you know, hey, we're going to get our country back together, and then years
you don't
later,
know till it's too late.
Yeah, before you know it, the frog in the warm water. Before you realize it, you know, you just lost yourself to this problem reaction solution, like David Icke talks about. But you know, I agree with you, and I think this is exactly what happened. But I do have faith, and I want to get and hear your sense of faith in our future.
Yeah, we need some encouragement. And we got to rise against this together.
And in the American people, because I do think the American people, once they get a certain percentage of awakeness of how, my God, when I lose my life, liberty, and pursuit of happiness, then I can't focus on work anymore. I can't focus on being with my kids or whatever, because now I'm not going to have any foundation to be able to have that type of a pursuit of happiness. So do you see the tide turning, or do you think that we go either way at this point?
Yeah, so here's the optimistic side of things, because I was raised to be a very optimistic person, and not blindly so. Good. But I've arrived at this point after having dug. I know there's a lot of people who want to avoid all of this news, and that's a very dangerous thing to do. We need to look the dragon in the eyes, and we need to know exactly what the risks are and how it's going to affect our future and our liberties. But at the same time, we also need to pay close attention to. As a storyteller, as a filmmaker, we need to pay close attention to the stories we've been telling each other since the beginning of literally the cradle of civilization. All of our stories, all of our mythologies have a very common thread to them. And in the end of all the stories, the ones worth remembering is that the light wins.
Yes.
And we are being pushed right now as the collective humanity right now to understand that lesson that is threaded throughout our most iconic and favorite movies. You know, the forces within you, you are the one. All these lines that are there to remind us, literally, those are prototypes that the stories we tell is us trying to understand our future. And our future is good. We win this thing, but not without a battle first.
Right.
And not without the crescendo, whatever that might look like. Whatever that might look like, you know, in the smut to the.
Yeah, perfectly stated from a producer too. I love that perspective. Yeah. You know, the force is with you. Any of these movies, you know, The Matrix.
I was going more biblical, like love wins, but yes, I'm with you.
So Mikki, does this whole awakening on your perspective? Yeah. This whole awakening on from your perspective of how you're producing movies. I know Plandemic 2 are hard-hitting documentaries, but has this changed the way how you see you producing movies going forward? Maybe not so much documentaries, but if you wanted to get into a action movie or a horror movie or a whatever type of movie, has it shifted your perspective how you want to produce them?
Well, yeah, we're doing a lot right now, and so there's some things I can't fully talk about, but we're building systems, I'll say, that are bulletproof and that bypass the gatekeepers. So their censorship has caused a lot of people like myself to come together, to unite. A lot of people with money, a lot of people with vast technical skills, people who have already built major platforms to come together to say enough is enough. We need to support truth tellers out there. We need a curated system that people can go to fact check the fact checkers, to find out what the hell's really going on in politics and medicine and all of that. So we're building that now, and then it absolutely has changed the way I do films. You know, it's the traditional model of people will always ask how was it that because both Plandemics have set world records. You know, the first one reached over 1 billion people. Wow. And the second one was 2 million people watching the live stream premiere, which is a world record. Wow. And so people have asked, how did we achieve this? And one of the ways that we achieve this is to shed a lot of the teachers. To shed a lot of the teachings of this kind of marketing paradigm that we've been infiltrated by for the past 20 years or so, that has everyone so concerned with kind of hoarding the likes, hoarding the views,
right,
and trying to control the distribution of it. And our model was very simple. It was no profit. We're going to do this on donations only. We're not going to turn on any advertisements where we could have made tens of thousands of dollars. Right. We don't want any barriers between the people. We want to give it to the people and let them distribute it, let them decide for themselves. And so that model is a model that I'll definitely continue on down the line, because it's what allowed these films to be distributed by and for the people.
Yeah, you're never going to sell out to big pharma. So you said fact check the fact checkers. Can we just touch upon that real quick? Because the danger of people to be called whistleblowers or people exposing the truth, you yourself, did you experience danger or maybe try to get discredited, or you and your family have any death threats, or have you ever been in fear because of you just trying to promote the truth?
Do you carry a gun now?
Yeah.
Since you're not a liberal anymore.
Yeah, tell us.
Yeah, my wife and I both do. And so, yes to all of the above.
Wow.
You know, it's all part of it, though. You know, but that's the thing that usually stops people, and people have to remember that the more public you are, the safer you are.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
You know, you have to be out there. We also have a lot of other precautions. I don't know if you know what a dead man switch is, but I have a doozy.
Good.
And that basically, for people who don't know what that means, should anything ever happen to me, there are several people that have a bunch of very, very serious information that will then release it to the public and to proper authorities.
Oh my God.
So, I'll sit on that.
Oh, I guess you're
nobody wants
you're out of luck, Shannon.
I'm the middle ground. Am I a Democrat? Am I a Republican? What do I believe? Just somebody tell me.
But that's good to know,
Just
and I think more people need to be thinking like that, Mikki.
No, but that's incredibly dangerous. Do you hear what he just said?
Of course.
So, like, that just shows right here that we are literally living in a sci-fi movie almost.
Listen,
or a thriller. Like, this isn't a game of play. This isn't playing house. This is real life.
No, listen.
People need to take this seriously.
Yeah, and it's hard not to.
Dozens and dozens of holistic doctors, as you know, dozens of them. You know, some people counted up past 100.
Yeah.
Have met their early demise with two shots in the back of the head, suicides, crazy stuff.
For
that doesn't make sense.
To heal people, sharing information to heal people, they were killed.
It blows my mind.
So it's just
I don't understand how more people aren't waking up.
Because of what I want to ask this question to you, Mikki, exactly what you're saying, Shannon, is because right now the internet is in the process of censoring. They said October 1st, all the different channels of YouTube, they're shutting down. And I heard years ago, somewhere I think at one of the conventions in LA, actually, out there where you guys are, I heard that they're going to be shutting down all social media to a point, or screening, where you can't really get our perspective out there as a fair and balanced.
Which they've already been doing tremendously.
But it's going to get worse, though.
Yeah.
And it'll be more like a Chinese type of control over the internet, to the point where they're talking about shutting down the internet for a period of time, and then when they open it back up again, you'd have to apply for your website to be seen and screened first, and then actually approved if the content they wanted up there. Let's assume, and I'm not saying it's going to happen, Mikki, but let's assume that type of worst case scenario occurs, okay, where it is literally communistic, fascist, state-controlled media. Do you see the typical producer, the typical creative out there, such as yourself, giving up, or do you see them finding a new way?
I see them finding a new way. The majority of them will, and we'll never reach that point. They're going to attempt to take us to that point, but they've gravely underestimated America and Americans. This is not going to happen in this country, and what happens and doesn't happen in this country also affects the rest of the world. And so America will become the anchor point that other countries will then rely on and follow the lead of. Unfortunately, so many nations have followed our lead through this pandemic, and this is why their economies and their worlds are destroyed right now, because they followed our lead. There's no way this is going to happen to that extent in America. I feel incredibly certain about that. Oh. People are standing up right now, and the cabal, as you called them, are so vastly outnumbered that all we have to do first is get past this point of not wanting to believe that it's happening. And the moment that we get past the point of not wanting to look at it and to see that this is actually what's happening, that a lot of the people that we voted for, these smiling, charismatic faces, are actually the ones that are destroying our lives and jobs and futures. The moment we actually accept that it's possible that people can be that wicked and evil, all in the name of politics and all in the name of staying out of prison themselves, because that's what's really going on here. We have 100,000 sealed indictments, and there's a lot of people that are going to go down as a result of years and years of enacting traitorous actions against their own country, and that's what's really going on here. And when that is exposed, then the American people will rise up, and we will reclaim our freedom, and we will reclaim our country, and the rest of the world will follow.
It's crazy how cocky the cabal is. Like, if they think that we are all this, like, a bunch of stupid sheep that no one's going to question it, and we're all just going to go with it.
I go in the supermarket every day, and I'm the only one not wearing a mask, so I don't think they're too far off.
Yeah, but remember what David Martin said? It was just on our show.
Yeah.
Speaking of David Martin's going to the red pill. Mikki Willis going to the red pill. What kind of things do you hope to get out of the red pill besides hanging with your buddies?
Well, it's an honor to be there, because I'm a big fan of G. Edward Griffin. This is a man who warned us back in the '60s of what was coming.
Right.
If you haven't watched his black and white talk where he's reading from communist manifestos, telling everyone what was underway, then you're missing out something really, really great. So I'm honored to be part of an event with a man who paved the way for the rest of us. And he's giving me free time to tell my full red pill story on stage. And so I'm excited to be there and to support. And right now it's just about, to be perfectly honest with you, I used to be in front of the camera as in my Hollywood days, and
I can't
and it
see
is not
why.
Shannon can't.
Okay.
And it's thank you, but it's not something that I seek right now. It's not something that if I really had my choice, I would spend a lot of time with my kids out and digging in the ground and planting food. And but at this point, we all have to step up and answer the call, reluctantly or not. And back onto the idea of following our mythologies and the stories we've been telling. There's in the work of Joseph Campbell that has mapped out all of our heroes' journeys, all the stories we've been telling, from the cave, the cave etchings to campfire stories to present day. They speak about the hero as the reluctant hero. The hero's never ready for the call. The hero never thinks they're the one, or they have the power or the ability. They're looking for someone else to save them.
Yes.
But it's time for all of us right now to really fight that urge to be comfortable and to step out of that comfort zone and to stand up and to know that our voice matters, no matter how big and how small, and that we need you right now.
Again, I go to the biblical standpoint with the prophets. They didn't want to be a prophet. They're like, crap, I have to be one? That's like your job. You guys are so like-minded. You're saying what he said. He sat all of us down and even put on every single website the Edward Griffin communist takeover. And, he's saying what you say, like, stop waiting for someone to save us. We got to save ourselves.
Superman's not coming, guys. Superman's not coming.
I mean, we are all Supermen.
So Shannon can't wait.
Women.
Yeah,
yes.
Women. They're super women out there, too. Shannon can't wait to interview on the Step and Repeat there down in Jekyll Island. I'm so excited to meet you as well. Thank you so much, Mikki, for coming on.
Yes.
Again, guys, you want to catch him. Is it
Call to action, people. He just did it.
Right, and call to action. There you go. And real quick here, last question. I know you can't talk about certain things coming up, but what can you tell us what you're working on in the future?
Well, the next film is going to be centered around the re-education or unindoctrination of our children.
Ooh,
gosh.
Big one, big time.
Are your kids in public school? Just curious. Or are you homeschooling?
Oh, I think there's a delay.
My kids are in a fantastic school that was formulated as the result of this pandemic. Parents broke away from the public school system and from the private school system and formed their own school. And so my kids are part of that.
Welcome.
Yes.
Well, I'll tell you what, Mikki, you are fantastic. Thank you for your bravery. Thank you for your courage. Thank you for sharing. And these movies that are billions are now seeing, making a difference. Every person counts, like you said, and you are definitely a hero of mine. And looking forward to meeting you in person. And Shannon, you want to say anything goodbye?
I just want to tell all the women out there, if you're not going to the Red Pill Expo for total superficial reasons, you're going to want to go to the Red Pill Expo.
All right, guys, we get back. We got a recap, and we'll talk to you guys a little bit. Don't go anywhere.
I think we have our news, Tim, coming up.
Oh.
Not our recap. What are you?
Okay.
Are you done with the show after this?
Hey, let me do the retake. Hey, guys, we got our good news coming up next.
Influenza viruses cause upper respiratory infections. So even if the vaccine wasn't contaminated at all, why would you give the most susceptible people an upper respiratory infection?
Yes.
In order to prevent an upper respiratory infection.
Yeah.
So we're actually driving the disease. And you open this part of the show with the paper that showed this in the military.
The game is to prevent the therapies till everyone is infected and push the vaccines, knowing that the flu vaccines increase the odds by 36% of getting COVID-19.
Where does that data come from?
A publication last year where the military who had been vaccinated with influenza were more susceptible to coronaviruses. Coronaviruses are in every animal. So if you've ever had a flu vaccine, you were injected with coronaviruses.
So the most important message is no flu shot. So you can only assume that it's deliberate for Robert Redfield to stand there and say that yesterday. Oh, and get them at the end of the summer. And that's going to make, and then they're going to say, oh, look, COVID-19 came back because we let you out of your homes too soon. And it won't be because you let them out of the homes too soon. It will be because you drove the flu shot and people ran to get their flu shots because they wanted to go back to work. So the most important thing the public can do is get no shots, go back to work right now, show the natural herd immunity and show that it won't come back in the fall because we didn't drive it with the flu shots, because we developed natural immunity. We got out of our houses in the summer, got healthy, we'll be fine.
It's the perfect hour, and the stars are aligned. These conscious superstars are here to brighten your day. Listen to their stories as they connect, motivate, and build you from the bottom up. It's inspiration time with our awakened stars.
All right, welcome back to Awaken Atlanta. I'm Tim Ray, your host, with the one and only and bubbly and fantastic Shannon McVey.
Oh, that was so nice of you.
Yes, well, I'm a nice guy at times.
Okay, guys, if you just heard that interview with Mikki Willis, make sure that you share it because we need to get it out on Facebook so we can keep being shadow banned, because you know you're making it when they censor you, people. We are going to bring in Sacha Stone.
Yes.
By the way, he's like your idol, right? He's an idol of yours. You love him.
He's what I love is that he just lives his own authentic life, and he has this brilliance to him.
Yeah, and we got to interview him last year at the Dimensions of Disclosure.
Yes, that's when I actually got to know him.
So it's going to be good to see him again.
So as we bring him in, of course, he's a rock musician also, right? And he's also in charge of this international this tribunal, which we're going to talk about today, holding people accountable. Yeah. But let's bring him in. No more talk.
Good morning, Sasha.
Sasha.
Hi, friends. Good to see you. Welcome, a very, very warm welcome on my screen in Southeast Asia, in the tropics. If the rains come, and we're right in the middle of the monsoon, it's just kicked off. If you lose me, it'll be because of the rains.
Okay. Well, we're going to keep you as long as we can.
Right.
Thanks for being on. Do you remember we interviewed you at the Dimensions of Disclosure?
I certainly do. That was about a year ago.
Yes, it was.
He remembers Shannon. Doesn't remember me, I'm sure. Everyone remembers Shannon.
I was so out of it. That was the first time I ever learned about aliens. I didn't believe in aliens before you guys.
Sasha, I've corrupted her. So
yes.
So Sasha, this is before we get into, we're going to be talking about natural law and morals and how definitions and all that. But let's talk a little bit about what you've been up to recently, because you have the tribunal. You are out there voicing your concerns about this cabal, the Sabbatean takeover. What's our present status right now from your perspective? Where are we collectively?
Well, it's a beautiful progression from when we last spoke, because we were ringing bells when we last spoke and talking about really what was coming down the pike. And I think it's very squarely come down the pike. And the beautiful thing is that whereas it was you and I, Tim, a few months ago talking up the recipe, what was coming down the pike, and here we are a matter of weeks later, and I would say a few 100 million people, if not a couple of billion people, are now in that very conversation.
Wow.
So to someone like me, who's all about truth and disclosure and about revelation, this is a beautiful, beautiful thing.
Well, listen, perfectly stated.
That's what I keep saying. At least we're waking up for the first time.
Yeah, and you know, I said in the presentation, thanks to COVID, is that we know we have an opportunity now because we're seeing the crisis, the man-made crisis, right?
What do you think COVID is? Because we just finished the Red Pill Expo. People had different opinions. Some people thought it was for vaccines. Some people thought it was for an economic shutdown. Like, where do you stand? Where do you fall? Your beliefs on this?
It's the perfectly appointed fulcrum between our unconscious civilizational model and the new emergent conscious civilizational model. It's a perfect projection into the field by the unresolved aspects of hundreds of millions of souls, sentient beings on this living sentient planet, who are all variously the orchestra of our unresolved unconscious is now making itself heard, making itself seen in a discrete fashion in the manifest realm. And that's come into onto our radar screen in this very kind of spooky, stealth-like way, with a group of unensouled sociopaths who've taken control of the matrix and are now attempting to be the progenitors of a new galactic sleep cycle of unconsciousness. But of course, they've already lost that. That game is not going to manifest. That's the good news.
That's beautiful.
So who's being exposed to this, though? How do we win?
You know, the winning comes down to actualization within the atom seed of self, which is all to do with Christ consciousness, all to do with Buddha consciousness, all to do with actualized consciousness, awakening from the dream spell. That is the winner. The winner is actualization, is the Christic light, is the vibral unfoldment of a higher form of noble expression as a species. That's the winner. The winner is the alpha and the omega. It's not about duality. It's not about he and she. It's not about them and us. The them and us is now in such stark contrast. It's such a vaudeville. The them and us. The them have lost all standing with us. So the them has just become a ghost. You look at characters like Fauci and like Bill Gates and like the Crown of England and like the Vatican complex. You look at the institutions that have hitherto governed our entire field of reality, and they have no standing. They have no animus. They have no life force anymore. This is profound.
You know, it beautifully stated, and I agree with you on. And most people, as they awaken, they won't really understand what you just said until they are actualized, and then they're like, "Oh, I get it." But there will be a three-dimensional type of shift and change that people will be able to more with our five senses acknowledge somebody if we're progressing or not, right? And do you see that more so, Sasha, as a more kind of heaven on earth? The wars are not as much. The cabal's shifted power structures. There's more spiritually minded people in power broker positions around the world. I mean, what on three-dimensional level, how do you see us progressing as we become more actualized?
In very simple terms, the end of the fiction of our lives and the emergence of the organic sentient aspect of our lives. So the fiction is the church, is the state, is the crown, is the corporation, is the parent corporation, is the fiat blood economy. All of that are totems and aspects of the fiction. All of that is now, and this is all written into prophecy. I mean, apocalypse, as we know, means falling away of the skin, of the face, the mask. This is the great irony and paradox of being forced to mask ourselves, because this is a desperate attempt by the Babylonian priesthood to force to reintegrate the masking of ourselves from ourselves, because it's a paradigmatic shift, which is all connected to the unmasking. So blood economy, goodbye. War, disease, and poverty on the way out. Cities and that kind of urban landscape also is going to undergo a massive shift with an exodus of living men and women of the living soil from cities back to agrarian economies.
This is almost the opposite of sustainable development that's being pushed in every city right now.
I'm the man who was consulted over 10 years ago by the United Nations to come in and produce the Millennium Development Goal Awards on the floor of the General Assembly, which I did to my chagrin. I did it. I took on that license because I was inveigled into believing that I could help change the script and infuse consciousness into that diabolical remit of the Millennium Development Goals. So I understand the United Nations Agenda 21, Agenda 30, Millennium Development Goals agenda. It was always a very, very faulty agenda, but that, Tim, had nothing and has nothing to do with sustainability. It has everything to do with constriction of economics, a reimposition of climate change hoo-ha, i.e. scarcity economics, and that is all about control and supremacy of the fiction against the living.
Right. I want to just take a step back because you touched upon this and people are asking, do you think that this is a demon versus angels, that demons are now in here? Or do you think that it's more of an alien thing? Do you believe that there's spiritual warfare happening?
I don't believe I know because I'm participating in it. I'm immersed in it. My entire soul has migrated into this vector in time space on this plane of existence. I am the Adam. I am the man qualified to speak to that because I am actualized in that knowing, as we all are being invited to be. So the answer is yes. It is the duende line. If anyone is familiar with the great revolutionary Spanish poet Garcia Lorca, you will know he spoke about the duende. That is the line, the indivisible line upon which the angel and the devil do combat for the mortal soul. That is where we're at.
Wow. You know, think about that. And now that you could even go symbolically or literally, whatever it may be. And this is what we talk about on Frequency Wars, beyond the reality, right? And this is more reality than what we're living in 5 dimensions. But, you know, one thing you mentioned, I think this is really interesting for people to hear, Sasha, in your perspective, because I didn't realize that you did infuse what was going on in the UN with the, almost like you're moving the Sustainable Development Act, Agenda 21, you're moving it in a different direction. Right. So one of the things I heard years ago is that, the New World Order concept is not a bad thing, organizing the world. I mean, the whole on a level of looking at why not on a world level that we all can unite our intentions and progress further into the universe may be. However, we have the wrong people in charge doing it. Their intention is for suppression, tyranny, and everything else. However, the concept is not a bad idea from my perspective. I heard that we were going to co-op this New World Order, and this seems like part of your agenda here to maybe perhaps take this concept into a direction of creating heaven on earth.
Well, it's interesting you use the term agenda because nothing could be further from the truth as far as I'm concerned, and I'll tell you why. A New World Order was always about agenda-driven geopolitics, agenda-driven social economics and social engineering and cultural engineering. And that's precisely the problem. When a small group of Edwardian or Victorian gentlemen get together under the Cartesian rule and Newtonian physics remit, and they try to construct and orchestrate and engineer a reality format, what you get is entropy, war, disease, poverty, decay. So the point is that we have to depart altogether from anything that is agenda-driven. With the revelation that's upon us, which we could speak to at great length in terms of the astronomical and astrophysical phenomena of the light bombarding us on the galactic plane, all of that stuff speaks to an upgrade at the very building blocks of our reality. We know that's taking place. And that's, in a sense, erasing agendas. It's at the atomic level, we're being infused with a vibral light in our solar system right now. That is actually revealing us from inside out. We cannot drive agendas beyond this point. We've taken it to the nth degree, and all agendas must move into dissolution. What must take place is morphogenesis, when the psionic intelligence or the gut intelligence, which is our true, innate, intuitive, psionic, telepathic knowing and being, that's the actualized property we're talking. When that becomes the field of consciousness emanating from people, we don't have agendas because no one can hold an agenda. Your agenda will immediately be disclosed and revealed. This is the real hyperdimensional physics that is transmuting our temporal landscape into, let's say, a spiritualized landscape. And yes, that would mean human beings actualizing, become the Christed capacitors in order to anchor patterns of perfection to an imperfect world. Yes, bringing heaven to earth in that sense. Absolutely.
I mean, this has been going on the agenda since the beginning of time. So do you believe that there is good and there is evil, or do you think there's no evil, that even the bad are good souls, or they have souls, right?
Well, I believe we create where everything is an extension out, and then we got to bring it back in.
So what do you think about that?
I think we need to be careful about thinking. I think that the thinking is the very problem. Yeah. I think what I know. I'll speak to what I know, not what I think, because I care less for what I think than I care for what you think.
Yeah.
What I know is that the checkerboard of life is based on dualistic principles: binary, Shiva, Shakti, sun, moon, light, day, good, evil, male, female. It's everywhere. Everything has been broken down into that dialectic. And even in the geopolitical landscape, the Republican and Democrat, the Labor and the Conservative, all of that is a constant binary logic, which is designed to create a relentless wheel, a dharma wheel of suffrage and of exploitation and of supremacy of the majority over the minority. And then, of course, it swings the other way. So at what point do we step back from that bullshit dialectic and recognize that it's also playing out psycho-emotionally, psychosexually, and psycho-intellectually inside each one of us? Step back from all of the checkerboard of the evil and the good and the evil, the light and the dark, and recognize that those two aspects of the checkerboard are there as part of a interwoven tapestry against which we are required to define our Christed nature and our supernature, and then transmute and transcend that dualistic playing a chess field and move into a state of witness, where we begin to actually define a whole new paradigm based not on binary logic and duality, but based on transmutative and transcendent principles, which is empathy, compassion, limitlessness, the capacity to love and be loved limitlessly, and causing no harm, loss, or injury to another living soul. That's where we get into natural law.
That natural law, bam.
And let's go into that, because I think what you said is just phenomenal, and I love the ability about self-actualization. Because do you believe that this has been a predetermined goal? I know you don't want to say agenda, but of this conscious awakening. We're here to awaken to who we truly are. So as we collectively awaken, automatically there'll be heaven on earth. But what's the story after that? And I ask that question because do we see humanity now exploring the universe, or now they just realize they're spiritual beings and we could just interdimensionally teleport everywhere we want to go? I mean, does the humanity story continue, or is it over now once we realize it was all a matter about waking up?
Well, this is not the first time we're leaving a galactic sleep cycle and moving to a day cycle. This is not the first time that the seeding of humanity are moving into an emancipation through revelation. This has happened multiple times before. I would say this is a very unique time, because my understanding of the hyperdimensional physics is that we're departing from time altogether. The whole 1260 time signature, the Vatican imposed tick-tock, and the 12-month calendar, all of which is a mutancy and an abomination, incidentally. There are 13 months of the year. Every arcane priest and shaman knows this, going back hundreds and thousands of years. So we've essentially forced ourselves into a caged conceptual framework. That is all breaking down now. We're moving into an emancipated state, which is going to invite us increasingly, Tim, into understanding the quanta of the geometry of now being the only way we can bend time, and the only way that we can transmute and transcend anything is by being entirely present in the living moment, conducting right action and pure truth in our own lives. That is how we steer a higher outcome at every point. And that means stepping away from the idea. Well, yes, but watch that we're not trying to construct more things based on agendas and objectives, because that was always the problem. Yes. Moving towards an objective out there, whether it's a crucifix or an idea about your religiosity or an idea about a favorable outcome, is still negating the majesty and the ineffable nature of now, which is the only way, incidentally, the Pleiadians or the Arcturians or the Andromedans are able to steer spaceships and move through time-space and the fabric of time-space. You have to have a far higher state of witness than the one we adhere to, which is very limited by the idea of time.
Wow.
So
And the idea of time is what transfixes us into it.
Into the present.
How do we work on becoming higher then? How do we work on that? Because I would love to be more. Honestly, most of the things that you guys are both saying, I'm just like, what? I have to look stuff up. I grew up under the spirit of religion almost, so very indoctrinated. So it's really hard for me to see what you guys are saying. But I would like to raise my vibration. So how do people like me, how do we raise up?
You're doing it.
I think you're doing it pretty well. I mean, I wouldn't worry about you at all. But anyone who is on the noble path is by distinction engaging the revelation, the unfoldment of the new paradigm. Anyone who is asking a question sent from a heart center, and anyone who is walking in a straight line and ensuring that they don't cause any harm, loss, or injury to another living soul is already on that noble path. And what we'll look, I'll put it simply, 95% or 98% of our DNA is purportedly junk DNA. Well, I've got news for you and for every biological and cellular scientist out there. The junk DNA is the supernature. That is the dormant hyperdimensional DNA, which is activating anyway. So right now we know we can measure it amongst the AIDS children of Africa and these kids in Asia who are playing Tchaikovsky at the age of 3, and these incredible so-called indigo kids of the Nordic and the Aryan races all around the world, whether you are Asiatic or Africana or European. It doesn't matter. We've got this new generation of avatars and savants being born, despite the fact that the Babylonian priesthood that we allow to govern over us continue to try to poison that propensity out of us generationally. What do you think the vaccination program is all about? Why do you think that Mr. Bill Gates' oxidative enzyme named Luciferus patent 666? Why do you think that is designed to target chromosome 8 in the human being? Because chromosome 8 is where we engage our capacity for empathy. So in one generation, they plan to force inoculate 5 to 7 billion souls, removing our capacity for empathy and endogenously modifying the RNA. That is what Moderna stands for, people. Moderna means modification of endogenous RNA. Wow. It's designed to stop the next generation from having any empathy. They are trying to breed a planet of drone sociopaths, okay, without the capacity for empathy. Once that endogenous modification of the RNA has occurred, it means that it'll never come back into the true DNA default. We've lost it for all time.
This is another agenda of the vaccines as well, or multiple agendas, right? So this is fascinating, and I want to talk about that too, because I think there is the spiritual awakening. I believe we come from a certain perspective. I don't see it as duality, like you're saying, between good and evil. You could have that perspective, but there are people who are doing these agendas because they're too much lost in thought.
Right.
Thoughts, the intellect is running the show.
Hello, are you talking about me again? Yes. Yeah.
So, Sasha, you discussed the International National Tribunal, right? Oh, yeah. Tribunal. Now, I love the word natural because there's certain aspect with morals and natural laws that we are dealing with here, but there's so much confusion on people's natural laws versus morals. Can you put it in perspective of how we could be looking at it from a much healthier perspective, and two, how your organization actually addresses that? Because karma is but at the same time, people do need to be held accountable here in this three-dimensional world for us, I think, to move on even on a self-actualization process, in my opinion.
Well, just bear in mind that the world that each one of us have permission into play right now, the one that is waging war against the fabric of human soul, the one that is attempting to genetically mutate every soul on the planet, the one that is already systemically poisoning us through glyphosates and fluoride and every kind of poison you can imagine through the agrochemical and pharmaceutical industries, which literally defiles the fabric of air, soil, and water, and the human tissue, the human blood, the human cells, and the capacity for our atoms to be able to induct light. I mean, we've got a status quo, which I'll tell you what is not natural law. What is not natural law is what we permissioned in, which is we're having our thoughts controlled, being exposed to constant misinformation and predictive programming by a quadrillion-dollar academic apparatus and a entertainment apparatus and so on. So we've already surrendered our capacity for critical thinking, analytical thinking, in any way, shape, or form. The next generation are now entirely addicted to gaming and to virtual reality and into avatars and into not understanding that running over a human being with a vehicle actually hurts, or an asteroid crashing down into someone actually hurts. So we've got this bizarre aberration going on where we are the ones who are systemically surrendering our own capacity for any kind of critical thought. That's it. Once you've surrendered that with yourself and with your children and allowed only cult programming to rule the day, that's already happened. Then we allow the government in to take command and control over all the rules, regulations, ordinances that govern every aspect of our lives. And we've surrendered that. So all of this is an aberration of natural law. Natural law bespeaks to storytelling, to human beings learning through exchange, through storytelling. Human beings exchanging not with totems of value, which are backed up by a collateral, which is a scarcity model, like gold, rainbow. Any natural resource, in point of fact, is also a scarcity economic. A true emancipated economy is based on things like reputation and quality of the goods that you're contributing or exchanging. So, it's almost like every single aspect, micro aspect of our lives has already been surrendered by the natural-born man and woman to a fiction of controlling, of coercion and manipulation. And we're the ones who, through our coin to Caesar, are permissioning it. So I've said to people for the last 7-8 years, you have no voice and you're not qualified to complain about the status quo so long as you pay coin to Caesar. It comes down to that. But you see, that right there has just tapped into the serious discomfort zone of hundreds of millions of people, because all of a sudden it's like, whoa, okay, so what? I'm actually required to wage war against the state or the crown. I have to go against the entire apparatus. Yes. The living man, the living woman of the living soil is absolutely required to follow the dictate of their conscience and their soul covenant, and to never allow that to be breached by a fiction or a government or a church or a priesthood or any kind of cult programming. So this is where the red pill is. This is the bitter pill. And this is the one that most of us don't ever want to look at. We want to say, we want to have the psycho-intellectual, philosophical conversations about Zen and about, an egalitarian community and a zero-point economy. But I don't want to personally be the one to step over the line because, hey, I don't want the jackboots at my door. And this is what it comes down to. You as a living man or living woman of the living soil and your capacity to engage the Christed nature. Dear God, the day you do that, everything in the fractal universe changes and it comes to support you, especially when you withhold your coin from Caesar and stop abrogating your conscience. You see how the fractality of nature, this is also natural law, incidentally, because it's coded in the universal law of one. If you step onto the golden path, you will be met. You will be supported. But so long as you play the victim, so long as you imagine that you are pitting yourself against them and us and you can't do it on your own and you need to have people with. If you have that conversation with yourself, you'll never step out the front door and you'll always be a victim. And that means you're putting yourself into constriction and you can't escape it until you step on a noble path.
There's courage in that, and it clearly sounds like freedom once you get there, right? You're probably living way more free. We're pretty much slaves, and Sasha's not. You're in freedom.
I don't know. I'm pretty free, man.
Yeah, you're pretty free. I'm enslaved.
But
I'm trying.
You're not, Shannon. You think you're not.
Well, can I just ask one question about what you were saying? Because you were talking about Bill Gates and like what he's doing, the Luciferian and the 666 and the Moderna, words that are literally in plain sight. So I can't help but wonder if that is that darkness or whatever you guys call it. I call it dark. Has to do it in plain sight. They basically have to tell us.
Are they under the same rules of natural law, but they're able to pervert them?
I feel like they're not, though. I feel like that's evil, right?
Okay. Let's see what Sasha says.
They've already abrogated and surrendered the soul covenant. So that's why I've been saying, Tim, you know this, over months, I've been talking about the souled versus the unensouled, the masked versus the unmasked, because it's a perfect metaphor. Those people who willfully choose to wear a mask are, by definition, morons. If you do it because you have to in a given situation, more or less you can negotiate that with your own conscience, be it on you. But me, personally, you won't find me wearing a mask under any circumstances. I have no interest in abrogating that soul covenant, not to any temporal agent, because all temporal agents trying to molest me or to malign me or to degrade me, that is a choice I have always. And I've been through everything. I grew up in a war. I've lived on 5 continents. I've had my run-ins with police and with guns and with horrible goons and gooks and spooks. And I've had a very rich life up to this point. I've had to navigate those dangerous spaces as a living man, okay, including having a gun in the mouth. So I know what it is that you invoke in a situation like that. I know about that vibral Christed light and about that incredible hyperdimensional cloak of protection. I've conducted and done counseling and interviewed multiple victims and survivors of ritual sacrifice and people who've just about escaped with their lives from the slab in situations. And every time I hear the same thing, that individual steps into the now and owns the now in that moment of trauma and terror, doesn't try to filter it or escape it, goes, I must have steered myself into this vector of time space. I'm going to look at this squarely. And in that moment, your hyperdimensional cloak of protection is invoked. The police and the state, the agents of the crown, and all of the little goons with their guns and their manacles and their batons and their tasers, they have no thrall at all when you're dealing with the divine spark. But it does come back to that. We're now in a cult-programmed religious a civilizational model where 99.9% of people are talking religion and religious philosophy and spiritual philosophy, but they are not stepping into that nature. You see, when the state comes and knocks on your door and says, volunteer your child up for a vaccination, or put your child into the cult programming here, even although you know you don't want your child to be going to a school to be taught how to be a little girl when he's actually a little boy. And you don't want to have pole dancers coming in to kindergarten schools and teaching kids. You don't want that abomination. And yet we feel compliant and we obey. So we consistently obey the dictate of this Luciferic, these Luciferic icons. And that always comes down to you and me and how you and I conduct ourselves in the living moment in the now.
It reminds me of that moment in V from Vendetta when Portman, she realizes she can be taken back of the shed and put a bullet in her head, and she's like, okay, she has just given up all of the fear tactics, the giving onto Caesar, as you said, whatever it may be, and she's like, I'm comfortable where I am right now. And that's the moment you were talking about, when you're in the present moment and you're living your natural law, whatever the consequences. So you believe the universe, the angels, you're rewarded that moment of awakening. Your higher self says, you get it now. I mean, is that moment you're referring to?
Well, that is your own connection with your own oversoul. I mean, I'll give you a classic example. It's that wonderful little meme of a little geeky guy going to Peru to gargle ayahuasca, and he sits in front of the shaman. He says to the shaman, what's the problem with the world? And the shaman looks back and says, you have severed your connection with spirit. And it does come down to that. And my other favorite one at the moment is this whole analogy or metaphor of, does the deer cross the road, or does the road cross the forest? It's really where you're placing your state of witness.
Right.
Where are you placing your state of witness? I choose to place my state of witness in the Christed nature because it's timeless, it moves beyond time, and because it's arcane, and because it carries all of the logic of the true living. And that's the regenesis. That's what we're being invited to now as a civilization. We're being forced, actually, through this compression of pandemonium and mania, the breakdown of the psychometry, the social, ecological, and social, economical, and geopolitical fabric is all moving into absolute catastrophic failure. And no one knows what comes out of that. And so we're all in this amazing kind of confluence of madness and mania. It's the perfect time to define the fabric of the Atman, which is the living flame, the divine flame within each one of us. And I know it sounds woo-woo to many people in suburbia. I get that. I understand that the suburban mind, the pedestrian mind, has a hard time with this stuff because the pedestrian and suburban mind is still trying to say, how can I hang on to the house and to the job, to the mortgage, to the, to all of the artifice of my reality. Again, you choose. Do you want artifice or do you want the organic, the sentient, the living? How many souls are going to be engaging in exodus from the artifice of cities, as I said earlier, and moving back into agrarian economies in the country, reconnecting to the natural-born lives that we're supposed to be living, reconnecting to the fractality of nature, which is where cancer cannot exist. It does not exist. So choose. Everyone in a cityscape, 2 out of 3 are dying of cancer. And the other third is endemically ill and chemically poisoned. We have to choose. We've got to make that choice now.
Okay, and this is where courage comes in play, because it is so scary for so many people, as you're saying, who are caught up into the matrix, caught up into the identification of objects, of our who we have created ourselves to think who we are. So we're talking about a whole revamping of realizing our purpose here, and how does natural law? How can we get in touch with our natural universal essence to be able to help us let go of this fear, find that courage, and move into what you, because I believe everyone who's listening to you right now, Sasha, wants that.
Right.
They just don't have, they're just too scared to go there.
I appreciate that. And it's why in my own life, as part of my own journey of inquiry into life. I mean, again, I come from a war. I'm a war child. So I grew up in a sub-Saharan war, and I saw the atrocities, and I lived through the atrocities of that. And then I was a refugee for 9 years, stateless, no passport, can't move, owned by a calamity of circumstance. And I had to break free from that. And that's what forced the compression in me many, many years ago. So I was very blessed. I lived through my apocalypse when I was in my late teens, early 20s.
Got out early. Got it done early.
Yeah, and that's what gave me the gall to be a shock poet, a rock and roll musician, and then a frontline activist. Because all I am is irreverent. Is the only quality I have is my irreverence. But I've understood that it is that irreverence which is also the same reverence that the Master Jesus shared, and even the Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, had that same irreverence for idolatry and went in and trashed the idols. I mean, great living men and women always learn the art of irreverence and stepping out of the herd and the crowd, not feeling like you need to conform. Look, natural law is what is. Natural justice just is. It exists because it's the foundation of all right and proper conduct. You know it because it's implicit in things. Now, how do you apply that to your life and in the suburban or the pedestrian landscape? Again, it comes down to you being required to actually step outside of your comfort zone. Your comfort zone right now is paying taxes, even although you complain about them.
Right.
Your paying coin to Caesar is inviting the creature to devour you, because that's all that it does. But if you understand the premise of natural law, you will know that paying income taxes, personal income tax, is unlawful in every constitution, in every format. You should only pay commercial or mercantile laws, taxes. You should never pay personal income tax. That's an abomination. And that was when the Sabbatean element, or the satanic Luciferic element, crept in with Jekyll Island. That's where Edward Griffin and his tremendous work comes in. Because the imposition of the Federal Reserve and the fractional reserve lending and a perpetration of fiat economy and all of that heinous construct of exploitation and usury being franchised to 200 plus nations of the world, contained through the International Monetary Fund and the Bank of International Settlements, all the National Reserve banks. And what are they backing all of the false economy by? What's the collateral? Well, they ran out of gold a long time ago, pal. I can tell you that, because the kings and emperors stole that. It's in the basement of multiple palaces around the world. I know, I've seen it on multiple occasions. I've handled quite a bit of the historical gold in the work I do for redemption of the legacy treaties. But the real collateral behind the global Luciferian economy is human beings. Our registered bonds, our registered certificates of birth, our registration mark. Every time you sign a piece of paper that's taken in to the bank, the post office, that signature is monetized, securitized, and then monetized, discharged against your birth bond that you know nothing about. So every human being is given benefits by the state because you're an infant. You're treated as an infant from the day your mother and father unwittingly register your birth to the state and hand you over as chattel. From that moment, they own you, which is why they have a right to arrest you and cuff you and take you to a cell. Now, I deal with free men, true free men, people who have stepped entirely out of that. There is no police force that can do anything to them. They can take them to a police station, but the minute the desk sergeant sees these people and deals with them, they have to release them. Because if there is no bond to discharge the value of arresting you and incarcerating you and penalizing you, then they don't want you. You become a liability. So you see the prison bonds are worth even more than the living bonds, which is why governments and the artifice of the legislature and the executive branches of government are all, and the judiciary are all part of a confluence of witchery and wickedness. And they all are designed to ultimately shackle us and penalize us and trick us ultimately into being penalized.
So
they love it when we're forfeiting it because they can discharge even more money against the bonds.
So how is the International Natural Justice Tribunals, how is that going to incorporate what you just said in with holding people accountable, this Luciferian Sabbatean agenda and the crimes against humanity? How will that hold that accountable? And also, I throw in there too, is this the same as a karmic law, or is that a completely different? It will be involved in this tribunal.
Well, I think that's a very beautiful question. I salute you for that. Look, karmic law is you could say that the dispensation of natural law is where we try to fathom how karmic law interrelates with the temporal. It up, I'm sure. Reality. Yeah, but I mean, look, at the end of the day, I'm not quite qualified to speak on behalf of the Almighty. I mean, I like the idea, but I'm not going to go there. Natural justice and the dispensation of natural law can only speak to right conduct, right action. So the International Tribunal for Natural Justice, for instance, we don't prosecute because we don't claim prosecutorial power. We have a far higher jurisdiction than the Supreme Court of the United States or the International Criminal Court or the International Court of Justice, a far higher jurisdiction because we adhere to God's law, nature, natural law. That means that we educate people. We conduct commissions of inquiry into pedophilia, human trafficking, weaponization of the biosphere, corona, all that we've been doing in the last few months with the International Tribunal, and then with my media team setting up the World Health Sovereignty Summit, and then the recent Line in the Sand 5-hour marathon broadcast we just did week before last with Robert Kennedy and Del Bigtree and Ed Griffin and all the rest of the great and good, lining those voices up. When you assemble consensus, actualized intelligent consensus, you cleave through the bosom of darkness, and that's what we've been doing. So the dispensation of natural law can speak to the truth and the disclosure, and we do that. And that then creates revelation. That then brings about a sea change. What we did in Westminster in 2018 with the child trafficking and child sex abuse and the human trafficking Judicial Commission of Inquiry, which lasted 3 days, we know that was a seminal point in unveiling and unmasking the Vatican, because I then had heads of intelligence come and visit and sit down in my living room and say, we salute you for what you did, because that gave us what we needed to be able to then move on the front foot. So you see, dispensation of natural law and justice is really dealing with the flame of pure truth in our lives and speaking to it as a fellowship. When we start to do that at the street level, at the community level, and that's where grand juries and citizen juries come in, you have to remove the extant juridical process and the statutory law syndrome, because that's all complete deception. 10 million laws in the United States plus, okay? And no one knows them. No. And it's only incredibly expensive barristers at law who you have to pay $900 an hour for them to go into the law books and try and find examples to cite in a courtroom to be able to progress a particular battle. So it's all a fiction, it's all a lie, it's all a deception, it's all about commerce, it's mercantile law.
It sounds like we can never hold these people accountable for their crimes against humanity. I mean, doesn't it?
We can.
All right.
We can, and we do. And we must do it at the local level. Again, we must go and we must drag these technocrats and these bureaucrats and these little gray men and women out of the portals and the corridors of power. These people who are pensioned and salaried, the oath keepers, the ones who are in palpable, clear breach of their oath, the ones who are hiding behind the badge of office and the seal of office. Yes, we must do what we did in the medieval days. We must go and take them, and we must bring them into the market square. I'm not proposing violence for 1 second. That is never required unless somebody tries to step across the threshold of your house to harm your children, in which case, in my case, I would take a baseball bat to the head or pick up a loaded shotgun. I have no problem with the dispensation of what you would call violence when that breach takes place. But when I leave the threshold of my sanctuary and I move into the world, you will never do that. And you will only ever take someone by the hand and lead them into the light. So you can bait them in. The Anthony Fauci's of this world. These are career sociopaths who are unensouled beings who are resonating at a frequency. I actually know exactly what his soul frequency is, incidentally.
Wow.
That's something which is measurable. And curiously enough, you're going to find this next week because I'm putting this out for the first time. The actual soul signature of Anthony Fauci is exactly the same as the signature of coronavirus.
No.
Just so you.
Wow.
How do you know
yes,
that?
and that's on a scale system.
We only got a few minutes left.
Watch what I'm putting out next week.
Good. Oh,
Watch
excellent.
what I put out next week. You can love it.
Speaking of that, you had a question?
I have so many questions. My mind is blown. No, I can't. Go.
Okay. So, Sasha, what do you have coming up next? Give everyone a prelude. What's going to be coming for Sasha Stone and what you're doing on this, being an activist out there, and more so now than ever before. Sasha Stones are needed in this world, but
there's not a lot. This is what there's not a lot of you. There's not a lot of you. So how do we all become more like that? How do we become more aware? Are we going to have to reincarnate? Are we going to have to keep coming back?
Well, I beg to differ. I'm lucky enough to be in the center of my own crazy cobweb in life that I've spun for the last 21 years. And I am navigating anywhere between 1,800, 2,000, and 3,000 messages a day. Now, I can't read that many, but they're coming in, and I'm having to almost move into divination to work out which one I answer.
He's talking about.
But what I can tell you is that with the thousands and thousands of incredibly uplifting and positive feedback messages I'm getting, I am seeing people absolutely aligned to you and me. Aligned, absolutely. Just only now on the threshold, because revelation is upon us, of being able to step out of their front doors. But that orchestra, that symphony of the ensouled and the enlightened is about to unleash. Stick around, baby. 21st December this year, winter solstice is the day. If you understand calendric systems, if you understand Sabbatean and Babylonian mysterium cult logic, if you understand the false premise of our existing calendar, stick around, because from winter solstice this year, the revelation unfolds. Between this and next year, 2021, that year is the year we anchor the immanent patterns of perfection to the earth plane. So you're going to see an exponential revelation as it relates to innovative technology, biological upgrading taking place within the human gene expression, the collapse of the temporal artifice of our world.
It's exciting.
All of that is part of a counterpoint confluence. All you've got to do is bear witness. You don't need to go and do anything. And people who are feeling irrelevant and wanting to do something, no. Your state of witness in right action and pure truth is the most you can ever do. Be that, and you are the avatar. You are the bodhisattva. You are the messianic principle.
And the choices they make from that perspective, too. Sasha, you are wonderful.
Fantastic. So smart. Oh, my gosh.
And a hero for many and a light for all. So, Sasha, thank you so much for spending time with us.
Yes.
Real quick, people reach you if they want to get more involved in your world. How can they reach you?
I do not want anyone more reaching me. I can't.
Does that mean I can't come live with you just for a couple months? Take me under your wing a little bit.
God bless you both. God bless you. God bless you both.
Thank you, Sasha.
Thank you, Sasha. Wonderful, guys.
Are we going into break?
Yeah,
let's not even go to break. Let's just go into recap.
We'll go into recap, and we'll take it from there. What do you think?
Okay, my mind is blown, first of all. Okay, when we were at the Red Pill Expo this summer, or this winter, listen to me, this weekend, I'm exhausted.
I'm exhausted.
We have some fans from the show, and they said, Shannon, it's been fun watching your awakening, and it's unique that the show's Awaken Atlanta because we're seeing you awaken, and I can't stop thinking about that. Like talking to Sasha, you get it, but you know what? There's a lot of people like me out there that kind of get it, and we are awakening. Yeah. So this show is really beautiful. Awaken Atlanta, Awaken with Shannon, come awaken with me, and you too. You're not that. I mean, you're not like You're way further than me. But, there's still always something to learn.
Of course.
And something to wake up to.
It's forever growing. And
But it's an awakening. So, I can't wait to learn more about what Sasha's talking about. Because some of it, I'm not going to lie, it was just like, I can't get on board yet with
that's
it.
What replays are for.
I'm not woke enough,
That's what replays are for. No, well, you're learning so much. Everyone is.
Learning so freaking much.
I know. I mean, guys, it's a matter of, life is about programming. Everyone's getting programmed. You're getting programmed every day. Your kids are getting programmed. The question is, where are they getting programmed from?
Yeah.
Who's
indoctrinating them?
Are you a parent? Are you being very concerning of what program is coming? Are you watching the mainstream media? Or are you going to the Sasha Stones out there, to the red pills out there? Are you going to the places where you're getting truth? Because one thing I said, and I tell you what, it's so important, the truth doesn't matter anymore. It's just the appearance of truth. And the appearance of truth will always lead us down a road to lies and a road to making bad decisions. But when you distinguish between the appearance of truth and then truth, and a great example is masks. It appears that they help, but we know they don't. But the truth is that you're actually harming you. And once you let go of the appearance of truth by vetting it out, getting out of fear and vetting it out and going down that rabbit hole, you then can start making those decisions that lead you to that Sasha Stone self-actualized goal.
It's time, and I think all of you that are watching this right now, that's a calling for all of us. It's not an accident why we're all here right now, especially with everything that's going on with COVID.
Yeah.
Well, even being alive, we're all collectively alive at this time for a reason. We are all connected, all of us.
Absolutely, Shannon. You hit it right
I want to keep learning, though. I'm excited. My brain literally did a marathon. I saw myself running. It was insane. What do you think? Did you learn anything new in today's show?
Absolutely, yes. I love the fact that what I loved is that he believes in it all. Holding them accountable.
Yeah.
Them paying for the crimes against humanity. Also, he believes in how it's a matter of us as individuals to go to that moment of the present moment.
It's our responsibility.
Follow our natural drive and instinct to do the right thing, whatever that feels like, and be brave and courageous enough to put yourself what seems to be in harm's way, but in the reality, at the end of the day, your natural law and the natural aspect of our angels and whatever higher power we have and believe in will protect you. And you have to have faith. And those people, like a lot of Christians, my mom and Catholics, are scared to death to die.
Yeah.
If you're scared to death to die, how can you be a Christian?
Whatever. That's unfair because I consider myself a Christian and I'm petrified of dying. But you know what?
Okay.
We're not. We're all in different places.
All right.
That doesn't make one better than the other.
I'm not saying better. I'm saying once you understand there is no death, right? We are spiritual beings that live forever. Then you got to live that part of your life. And that's the courage, Shannon. That's the courage will get you to that self-actualized moment.
You guys.
You got to be V for Vendetta, like Portman. You got to be like, okay, I don't care anymore. I'm going to do what I believe.
Yeah.
I'm going to be there in the present moment.
And that's what Sasha Stone just said.
I know, exactly.
It's up to us. We need to be in alignment with our souls. And I think that's where, and I've learned that's where sicknesses and other things come through. But I want to read real quick what John wrote. He said, COVID-19 was their last mistake. And I really like that because I believe that's why I'm almost grateful for COVID-19 because so many people are now out there seeing things for what they truly are for the very first time. I would have never woken up to what I'm seeing if it wasn't for COVID-19.
You're absolutely right. I mean, if you showed before and after, you're like, wow, that COVID-19 made all the difference. And you're right. And more people are waking up than ever before. And it's not it is about a self-actualization. It's about awakening consciously to who we truly are. And who we truly are spiritual beings having a human experience here. So, in my opinion.
And I want to just say I love you.
Oh,
and I love
you too.
everybody. I'm so happy.
Speaking of love, guys, tomorrow on Frequency Wars, it's all about Freemasonry, and not so much love there, but we're going to get into we're going to have people who are going to be whistleblowing on it and sharing their perspective as well.
I respect you so much.
I know. So, I mean, Freemasonry is part of the Sabbatean agenda that Sacha was even referring to in reference to that. Now, like a lot of us, they're fooled on the lower levels, but when you get to the top, like in Scientology, you get to the top, things go bad quick.
It's in plain sight, though. What is happening is right in front of us, and I think it's like they have to do it.
It's a hypnosis.
I feel like it's like the deal that they made with the devil that they have to do that.
Or the universe,
of love in Christ consciousness, how you call it.
It's like that's how they get around the Prime Directive. That's how they get around that. Yeah.
What is our show on Thursday? So we want to invite you all to keep watching us on Facebook because we're censored. Make sure you're getting the word out.
But more importantly, go to uimedianetwork.org.
Yes.
Because Facebook may censor us forever. So uimedianetwork.org, you'll be there, and we have a whole new system of messaging and on lives. You can do what you have the Facebook experience. When that gets rolled out here in the next week or two, you'll be able to have that in case Facebook decides to go fully Luciferian.
Yes, but Tuesdays and Thursdays, 6:30 a.m. What's our show on Thursday, Ash?
Ghosts.
Ghosts? We're going to get spooky because it's October. If you guys have any ghost stories you want to share, if you have any emails, write them because we have Tribe Time and we'll read them on that.
I bet you Sasha Stone has a lot of them.
We have so many comments. I don't even know. Do we have time to read them all?
Yeah, we have a few minutes. So as she's looking at the comments there, I'm just saying that I truly enjoy the show. Natural law, our morals and everything like that, how we are demoralized. It's amazing how in like Hollywood with the Epsteins and the Weinsteins, how they demoralized. They assisted with the demoralization of our country.
Well, look at the blackmail. Look at what they do. They get you on camera, and then they blackmail you. Paula says we can only do this if people stand together and stop being cowards.
There you go.
Which is, absolutely.
Yep.
And that reminded me of your speech at the Red Pill Expo, which you guys have really got to check out if you haven't yet. Veronica says Fauci is a meat puppet. Expose the puppeteers.
A meat puppet, yeah.
Billy says, congratulations, Shannon and Tim. Your show got commandered. I don't know what that means, but I like it. Veronica says, you can't stop what's coming November 3rd. Oh, that was interesting. Explain to me and anybody else like me, what did Sasha mean about December 21st? What's going to happen?
Solstice. Okay.
But what's going to happen?
There's going to be more of an awakening. There's going to be a much larger awakening of mass consciousness. And that's what he's referring to.
But he used the word revelations. Is that like the book of Bible Revelations?
Yeah, I think the Bible's talking about what's going on. They just interpreted, man interpreted it, and so they took probably a lot of the meaning out or misinterpreted the meanings out. But I think a lot of it's in line. And I do think that there is going to be a mass conscious awakening, and this is why they got to alter our DNA with the vaccines, and they're moving very quickly. And I do think they're making mistakes because they're panicking, and they're going to create another false flag. I can almost guarantee it. It'll probably be after the election. That's going to put us in martial law. They're using all these riots, in my opinion, to get us to so we won't be able to protest, even good people like us. And then before you know it, we're going to have, and that's when I think they'll make their final mistake is when they start pushing the false flags out quicker because they're losing this awakening process.
Teresa said everyone just needs to quit being fake. And I think that it's not necessarily a fake thing. I think that we get shamed into submission, basically. And I think that's very human nature. That's why I've been saying, if you guys missed the first part of our show, we're talking about natural law. Humans, we're so precious, and we need to love each other and give each other understanding and grace and stop bullying others because we're thinking different. How many times have you been told that you're crazy? How many?
All my life.
But you've honestly kind of been ahead of the game, right?
Well, I'm like Sasha was saying, I'm living making my own decisions, my own natural law. And so, yes, I mean, in college, everywhere else, when I say my things, people like, this is crazy. But, hey, he throws good parties.
The biggest thing that we can do going out and living in this is having courage, is stepping out, it's speaking the truth, and it's loving each other. United we stand.
At the same time. Very good, Shannon. Yeah. Perfect. So with that said, guys, Ghosts on Thursday, Freemasons tomorrow on Frequency Wars, UI Media Network.
Yeah.
Sign up right now. It's free, uimedianetwork.org. Also, you could get to the Red Pill through that way, too, to see all the different presentations we had. It was an incredible weekend.
We love you. Don't forget, we did have Mikki Willis before Sasha Stone, so we had 2 phenomenal interviews. Replay the show. Share it everywhere you can. We love you. We'll see you on Thursday.
Mwah.
You've been listening to Awaken Atlanta, a conscious way to start your day. Catch us live Monday through Friday from 6 to 9 a.m. Eastern. You can also find us on Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, and Spreaker at UI Media Network. Have any questions you'd like to ask our team? Or maybe you'd like to say hello? Write to us at awakenatlanta@uimedianetwork.org and get a chance to be featured on our show. Until next time, live life with intent and have a great rest of your day. The United Intentions Foundation and its associates take no responsibility for the opinions and statements made by the talk show hosts